actually, we can kind of use that space, a little bit of this space, just kind of leave a track right here for me so that we can, because we film everything, because when we sell the video, you can buy the video of this, you get everything, right? So we have nobody in my way. How are you all this morning? I appreciate you coming out on a Monday morning to do this. So a couple things, right? I have, some of you may know, or how many of you have taken intensive from me before? Okay, great. So, and how many of you have never taken a lesson from me? Any first timers? Suckers. All right, so somebody told you. Somebody told you I knew what I was talking about. So, no, it's all right. Go ahead, man. You want to see my face? So, so we have to half circle it this way. Got it. You guys go this way. There we go. Awesome. You want to see my face? I do so many squats. You sure you don't want to see my butt? I really, come on, man. I work those hamstrings and glutes. Jeez. This, you get to see my belly. That's not as good. All right. So, anyways, a couple of things. So I've been dancing for 35 years, and I, like you, have relearned how to dance multiple times in my life. Have you found that? Where you're you thought you knew the dance, and then you're like, oh, I don't know this dance, right? You thought you were coordinated, and you're like, oh, I'm not coordinated, right? So one of the great things about society, right, is that we keep evolving and we keep learning new science. So what happens lots of times in dance is you have really great dancers who become teachers. This is how I became a teacher. I was dancing at this place called Top of Beardsley's. I was 18 years old. It was in Northern California. And I'm dancing this guy named Dennis Kinney. I remember it. We're still friends to this day. He walked up to me and he said, hey, I really like the way you dance. Do you teach? And I said, well, yes. I just said it. And he goes, how much? I said, for a private lesson. I said, $30. So, and he goes, where? I said, in my mobile home park, there's a rec center. Because I live in a trailer park. So he came to my trailer park and I started teaching. Now, I knew certain things. Here's the way most of us learn dance. You come to a dance teacher with a certain set of talents and abilities already. Does that make sense? And then the dance teacher teaches you things and fills in the gaps. Does that make sense? And actually, the more talented you are, the less you actually learn about what your body's doing because there's less gaps to fill in. So then what happens is somebody asks you to teach, or somebody asks these people to teach, and they start to teach. Now, they don't know the science because they never learned the science. They had natural ability, and then they learned some of the science behind it. Does that make sense? So what we do in society is when we don't know the science, we fill in the blanks to the best of our ability. Kind of like, I think the earth is flat because it seems flat when I walk, right? Because we didn't know the science. Then we found out the science that the earth is round. And we're like, oh, wow. But even then, some people were like, well, that's this newfangled idea. I teach more traditional science where the earth is flat, right? So there's still even people, once the science presents itself, that fight the science. Does that make sense? Cool. So I'm in an ever-seeking pilgrimage to understand the science of how one body moves. I've been doing it my whole life. So I did martial arts. I went to chiropractic school, Palmer School of Chiropractic. I've studied ideokinesiology, applied kinesiology, Feldenkrais, Alexander technique. I've been a member of the International Association of Dance Medicine and Science since 2005. I'm a certified biomechanics specialist with NESTA, which is the National Endurance and Strength Training Association, and I'm a biomechanics certified International Olympic Committee coach. I coached 4 couples to the Vancouver Olympics in ice dancing. So as a biomechanics coach. So for me, how the body moves, super, super important. So I came up with a hypothesis a while ago that couples dancing is being taught wrong. That lots of what you're being taught, right, is as we've tried to reverse engineer what I'm doing to then figure out how to teach, there's been some mistakes made. One of the biggest ones is that your center is where you lead and follow from, and your center is where you move your feet from. How many of you have ever heard, as a leader, I move my center and then that moves the follow? Right, cool, great. I think that's incorrect. And I think I can scientifically prove it, right? But I'm going to show you all today how to manage your center and your spine and your movement. You with me on this? But you got to kind of go with me a little bit because I'm going to contradict some things. Now here's the thing. No teacher teaches you with the intention of teaching you wrong. Being wrong is knowing what's right and choosing not to do it. That's being wrong. Does that make sense? Teachers teach you to the best of their ability and the best of the knowledge that they have. So as I start to talk in this class, and it sounds like I'm contradicting other teachers, I don't think those teachers are wrong. I think they're teaching what they know for how they know. And the only time I think they're wrong is if they've been presented with the science and then still choose not to teach it. You with me on that? Like in Pilates right now, they're doing a whole shift of how people breathe, right? There's a whole shift, right? And there's actually Pilates teachers, certain Pilates sects that are saying, well, I mean, we teach a more traditional Pilates. That's the new Pilates. And it's the exact same thing that's happened through the years. We teach a more traditional science, that the earth is flat. Yeah, you with me on this? Cool. So, so I'm hoping that this will inspire all of you. Okay, so before I get into all of this, and we're going to get you moving and waking up and understanding, any questions for me? Anything ever about dance that you ever wanted to ask, you can ask right now. Nothing? Anything about West Coast Swing? Anything you came in here hoping to learn? Yes? It's easy because I do it all the time. That's it's easy. You just get in a plane. All right. So no questions? Not yet. You shall have them. Okay. First thing we have to understand, right? So my system I call the shared centered system because we understand how we share a center, how one body moves another, and how we share a center. So it's called the shared centered system, right? So I have my center of gravity. My partner has their center of gravity. Once we connect, we have a shared center of gravity. So there's some things we have to understand about that as it starts to work. First thing, let's kind of soften our knees, right? And let's straighten our knees and soften our knees and straighten our knees, right? Walk them in place a little bit. Cool. Now go up into releve. That means just to lift up. Go back. Now can you go on your heels? Now go up into releve and go on your heels and up in releve. And as you do stuff like this, as you go up into releve and you go on your heels, can you feel that to keep your head in place, your hips kind of rock underneath you? Can you feel that? Right? If your hips don't, if your head follows your hips, let your head follow your hips. Right? It'll start to send you in places. Does that make sense? So the first thing we have to understand about how the body moves, and this isn't new, I've been teaching this for years, is called head weight, hip weight, counter. Everybody say that. Right. So my head weight and my hip weight counter each other. Does that make sense? So watch, feel as you rock from the balls of the feet to the heels. Feel how your head weight and your hip weight counter. Can you feel that? Yeah? So that's kind of important to know right away. Yes? All right, great. And we're kind of waking up our bodies a little bit too. All right, now, before we start to move, we have to think about a couple other things too. So everybody say proprioception. Right, so we have proprioception, interoception, and visceroception, right? So proprioception is what? Somebody tell me. Proprioception, what is it? Right, your knowledge of where you are in space, right? So proprioception, a couple things about proprioception. So proprioception is the ability that when I pick up a fork and I look at the fork, the back of my brain creates a photo schema of what that all is. It registers the length, the weight, everything else. So as soon as I pick up that fork right here, I can now watch the 49ers play while eating my pasta and not poke myself in the eye because my body knows where my mouth is. Not only does it know where my mouth is, but it knows the length of the fork. Right? Another way we can think about proprioception, not just as it relates to us, but as it relates to the world, is driving a car. When you back up, when you're backing up, you physically can't see everything about your car. Right? But because your body has an overall kind of, in the back of your brain, awareness of the car, you're able to parallel park and actually make really good judgments to where the wheel is to the curb, even though you can't see the wheel. Does that make sense? Kind of, sort of? So now, which is like when you get a new car or you get a rental car, sometimes you don't park as well. Sometimes you don't, like, you know what I do when I get a rental car? And hopefully, and I get them all the time, I walk around the car. But I don't just walk around the car to see if there's dents. I actually look for rear window, how big the back bumper is. Because then I immediately have an idea when I get in the car. My brain goes, oh, I know what all that is, and I know how to make adjustments. You with me on that? So that's proprioception. Proprioception is my body's awareness in space, but also things that I'm attached to. Right? By the way, when you're drunk, one of the first things you lose is proprioception, which is why they make you do this, because this is proprioception, right? So that you know where your body, right? By the way, if I told all of you right now, touch your chin. Great. Let go down, right? Close your eyes. Touch your nose. Now touch your nose again with the other hand. And again, switch. And switch. And stop. Great. So did you guys notice that as you did it the second and third time, it got easier and faster? Because your body went, oh, got it. Your body took a picture of itself and knew exactly what was going on, and then you could target better. You with me on this? Cool. Proprioception. Interoception is an internal feeling. Interoception is your body's feeling that it has to go to the bathroom, but it doesn't just go. Right? It gives you the ability to not go. Does that make sense? And visceroception is if you don't feel your organs, right? But if something's wrong with them, pain occurs. And all of a sudden you feel a kidney or you feel a liver, like you have a pain there. That's visceroception. All right, but proprioception, super, super, super important, right? Especially when it comes to couples dancing, because the second I grab somebody's hand, I should be registering lots of stuff that's going on. Just like the second I grab that fork, just like the second I'm in the car and I'm backing up, I have to have an awareness of the thing I am attached to. Does that make sense? And this is one of the biggest mistakes people make in couples dancing, right? They take the hand and they still worry about themselves, and they don't process all the information as to what's on the other end of their arm. You with me on that? Now, you naturally do it when you do something like grab a pen or grab a fork or a knife or drive a car. You naturally do it. But because dancing is so personal, and we have to worry about so much of what our own body is doing, when we grab the hand, we still worry about that, and we tend to shut down the proprioception to what we're attached to. You with me on that? Cool. So then the collection of information slows down. Yes, yes? Cool? All right, great. So that's the first thing. So what is proprioception? Let's do it. Proprioception, there are these things called proprioceptors. Feels like magic, but it's actually the truth. There's millions and millions of them in your body. So you have skin, right? You have skin. Then you have like nerve endings and proprioceptors, right? Then you have fascia. Then you have muscle. Then you have bone. You all with me on this? Cool. And we have tendons and ligaments. Ligaments attach bone to bone. Tendons attach muscle to bone, right? So the way our body kind of works is motor, cable, limb. Motor, cable, limb. Say that. Like my biceps a motor, the tendon is a cable, and then it moves the limb, right? Motor moves the cable, pulls the cable, moves the limb. You with me on this? Great, okay, cool. Now, here's what I want you all to do. I want you all to come down like this. So you have your, go to your humerus bone, that's the big arm bone, right? Slide down until you feel those little knobs. Can you feel those little knobs, right? So go to the inside of those knobs, right? Push out, straight out, right? And then across, across. Now, if you keep your hips square, you should feel it to the opposing side of the back, right? Try not to lean. There we go, great. Come over. Da-da-da-da-da. I literally do this 2 to 3 times a day. Underneath. Great, then across. Again, put the opposing leg forward. Come across. Try to feel it all the way to the opposing glute, to the opposing butt cheek, right? Because your latissimus dorsi, or your lat, attaches through your thoracolumbar fascia, right? All the way to the opposing glute. I'm relaxed, right as I pull. Great, cool. Now do me a favor, tap the arm, hit it. All the way around. And don't just feel like, am I feeling the hand that's hitting the arm? Try turning on the proprioception to feel the hand that's hitting the arm. So the focus is the hand, not the arm. Now make the focus the arm. Focus on what it feels like to hit the arm. Great. Now do me a favor. Swipe. That's it. All that tension, just pushing it away, pushing it away, pushing it away, pushing it away. Open up like this. Throw it down. Huh. Do it again. Make that sound. Huh. Great. Cool. Awesome. Put your feet together. Close your eyes. That arm feels longer than the other one, right? If your body were to paint it a color, it's a different color than the other one, right? Can you feel that? Open your eyes. Do me a favor, lift that arm. Lift it. Move it around. Great. Lift the other arm. Feels different, doesn't it? Feels different right away. Cool. So just so you know, our hyaluronic acid and our synovial fluid, right? So hyaluronic acid is the body's lubricant. It's very popular right now in products to have like HA and lotions and stuff. But your body produces HA all the time. So hyaluronic acid, what that is, it looks like a eyelash brush, right? So it's got all these little like hairs, and they don't like to touch each other. So when they get put into fluid, water, they grab the water and they create the viscosity of honey, right? And that lubricates your body. You all with me on this? Hello, hello. Great, cool. So what happens is when I put honey in the fridge, what happens? It gets hard. When I run honey under hot water, what happens? Yeah, it changes the viscosity, doesn't it? Like it gets more fluid. Yes? That's exactly what the fluid in your body does. When you wake up in the morning, your body, the fluid in your body is like honey that's been in the fridge. You with me on that? Cool. By the way, does anybody want to do the other side? Yeah, no, it drives me crazy. Like, right? As I'm talking, you're like, shut up and do the other side. All right, come over here. It's true, right? I actually talk a while just to annoy you because I know it bothers you to have to be one-sided. Right, cool. And then come across. Great, 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 great. And then underneath. So the reason for holding the arm, you can hold your wrist. You can come out to the wrist if you want, right? So, but the reason for holding here is I have a leverage point that pulls out. I have something I can pull against. Does that make sense? Cool. As I come across, that's all. Great. Opposing leg. Nice. Go up. Underneath. Great. Tap it. Focus on the hand. The hand. So you'll feel warmth in the hand that's hitting, right? Now focus on the arm. Great. Slide, 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 slide. Lift both arms. Throw. Lift both arms. Throw. All right. Close your eyes. There we go. Both arms are awake. Yes? Okay, great. So come down here like this. Here's what I want us to do. We're going to flex and stretch our back, but our lower back. Most people, when they do this, they do their upper back, right? So you have 4 curves in your spine. The cervical, right? That's your neck. Cervical. Thoracic. That's here, right? Lumbar, right? And sacral, like your tailbone. You with me on this? So you have neck, upper back, lower back, tailbone. You all with me on this? Cool. 4 curves in the spine. Great. We have two naked parts of the spine. Of the 4 curves, 2 of them are not supported by a skeletal system. The neck and the lumbar. You with me on that? Anybody know why? We have these 2 big naked areas. Anybody know why? So we can be mobile. Right. So we can be mobile. So we can twist. Right? So if you look at a skeleton of like an ape, we get compared to apes all the time. They don't have the cervical area. Their head, their spine almost sits directly upon their shoulder. Right? And they only have 2 lumbar in their two lumbar vertebrae before their ribs, right? Which is why they have to walk like this, right? If they want to go fast, what do? They go on all 4. Yes, yes. We have the ability to twist. We are the most efficient animal on the planet. Do you know that they took a human and a horse, a racehorse? So they took a racehorse, a 2-year-old racehorse, and a human, a professional marathoner, and they ran them against each other in a half marathon. And the human beat the horse. Because we get to use movement and momentum to move us and not muscles. Muscles are expensive. They use a lot of ATP. That's the muscle energy, right? So horses use they use muscles to move. They can't sweat through their skin the same, so they have to stop, they have to pant, they have to do all that stuff, where the runner just kept going. The horse had to stop every so often. Does that make sense? And then the runner beat the horse. Because we can start to move efficient. What's that? If they used an Arabian, the one horse guy in the room goes, if they used an Arabian, they would have beat the guy, right? They probably used some old nag. No, it was a professional racehorse. It was a 2-year-old, it was thoroughbred, right? What's that? But if I were to tell you I'm going to race a horse against a man for 13 miles, you would think the horse would kill it. Does that make sense? Right? But it's because of how efficient, because we get to do this. So because my naked spine gets to do this, the naked lumbar spine gets to do this, and the cervical area gets to do this, right? I get to use momentum within my body to walk. So that, like if I told you to walk, take 4 steps, same side. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you feel the muscular usage? Right? Go back. So imagine how tiring that would be, right? Now, start swinging your arms, right? So take 4 walking steps, swinging your arms. Far less muscular usage. Yes, yes, yes? Great, okay, cool. So it's super, super important. Now the problem with that, by the way, the problem with the 2 naked areas of the spine is that they're always in danger of being hurt, right? Because, so my thoracic area has my rib cage, that protects it, right? The cervical area has my pelvis, that protects it. My neck and my lumbar do not have protection other than muscles. They have soft tissue protection. They don't have hard, rigid protection. Okay, so now from here, what we're going to do is we're going to try to roll the hips. Now, if you can see me from different sides, I'm rolling the hips, I'm not messing with the thoracic area, so I'm not doing this with my chest. Does that make sense? So, and as I roll this back, then I'm going to tilt forward. As I do that, I want you to reach back, and I want you to feel your spine right now should have a little concave. It should be like a little canyon in there. Can you feel that? And you have these 2 bands alongside your spine. Can you feel those? They feel like a cord. Can you feel that? That's called your multifidi, or your erectus spinae. Right? Your erectus spinae is made up of 3 muscles, but that's the multifidi you're feeling right there. Right? So that muscle is goes right alongside your spine. Now, stretch this way, and you'll feel it go flat. Feel it all flat? And you feel that stretch? That's your thoracolumbar fascia that you're feeling right there. It's really an aponeurosis, which is a type of tendon that goes from the lat into the top of the glute, right? That's what you're feeling stretch. That's not a muscular stretch. That's a fascia stretch you're feeling, right? Go back. Stretch it. Flex it. Stretch it. Flex it. Tap it. Great, now do me a favor, tap your hips, top of the glutes, right, all the way around, quadriceps, side, back, your abdominals, all around. Right, exactly. Cool. Now do me a favor, go, huh, huh, huh. Again, huh, huh, huh. That's different than ha, ha, ha. Right? Do it again. Huh, huh, huh. Great, cool. Now shake it out. Great, put your feet together. Your body feels awake. You might even feel a little taller. Anybody ever been told in dancing to put your belly button to your spine? You ever been told that? So kind of a bad cue. I'm guilty of doing it. You'll never hear me do it again. So from here, if you put your hand on your spine, you're about where you need to be. Right? So roll your hips forward a little bit. Like, that actually feels uncomfortable to do right now, doesn't it? Right? So like, do that. Right. Sets it up how it's supposed to be. Do you feel that? Cool. If we can start to set our abdominals without having to flex muscles that aren't supposed to be flexed, that would be great. Does that make sense? Cool. So we have two types of muscles in our body. We have phasic muscles and tonal muscles. Phasic and tonal. Say that. Say it again. So we have two types of muscles, and there's always three types of contractions. So tonal muscles mean that they have some sort of tone to them at all times. In biomechanics, they call it a tonal hum, where there's like there's a tonal hum at all times, almost like a guitar string that you pluck that is constantly vibrating, right? So your multifidi that's alongside your spine, that's a tonal muscle because it helps support your spine. So it's always being used. A phasic, from the word phase, is only used in phases, right? So poke in, so find that area that reminds you ate too much pasta last week, right? So find the hips, go above that to the soft area. If you push in really hard and you cough, it should push out, right? So that's your transverse abdominis. Do that. Great. So make it relaxed. Now what I want you to do is, it's relaxed. I want you to bend your knees, and I want you to jump. And it pushes out. Can you feel that? Do that again. Jump and push out. Pushes out. Yes? Cool. One more time. Some of you're not going to feel it out when you jump because you're going to push out before you prepare to jump, right? Now do me a favor. Keep it relaxed. Rub it. Keep it relaxed. Try to jump without letting it flex. So if you did, you flexed it. It's physiologically impossible. You can't. Your body won't let you do it. Like, some people go, no, that's not true. I did it. And then I go up to them and I go, it's that you're flexing before you go, so you're not feeling the push out, right? Your body won't let you do it, and here's why. Because the naked spine, the lumbar, only supports 15 pounds of pressure. That's it, 15 pounds. And then it crushes. Your head alone is like almost 14 pounds. So you have way more than 15 pounds on your lumbar, right? Which means it must have a system that supports it. You with me on that? So the nervous system says, if you're going to jump and land, we're going to flex all these muscles. We're going to flex all these muscles so that you can protect your spine. And if you go, well, I don't want to use those, the body goes, sorry, I'm going to protect you, right? I'm going to protect you from yourself, right? So that happens. So that's a phasic muscle. Now do me a favor, push in. You're going to blow out and make full flex, full flex, full flex. So you're full flexed. Now go ahead and jump. Can you do it? Yes. Did it feel like a lot of work? Yes. Because what you've done is you've taken a phasic muscle and you've made it full tone. You've taken a phasic muscle and you've gone to full contraction. Does that make sense? At a point where it's not needed to be contracted. Does that make sense? Push out again. Like, think about that. That's extreme, isn't it? Right? Now jump. It's unnecessary. Relax. Let it flex as needed and jump. That's way more efficient, isn't it? For the record, that push out, that's the same negative effect on the body as me telling you to engage your lats your whole dance. When you have dance teachers tell you to engage your lats are phasic. They're not tonal. Your lats are not tonal muscles. And if you engage your lats the entire time you're dancing, it's just like doing that. And it's bad, and it will cause injury. Because the muscles, as they're supposed to be used, can't be used. They're supposed to be used in segments. Does that make sense? You with me on this? But how many of you have been told to engage your lats the whole time you dance? Right. It's a bad idea, isn't it? It's not nearly as efficient. Cool. Now, but let's talk about levels. Everybody say levels. Right, there can be levels of engagement, right? Cool. So watch from here. What I want you to do is, so it's relaxed. I'm only using the transverse abdominis because it's kind of the easiest to feel, right? So from here, go full tone, go full flex. Right, that's too much. Come off to complete relax. Can you just hum? That pushes out just about 10%. So just about 10. You see about 10%. Now do me a favor and jump. Easy. Does that make sense? Actually, you might have even gotten a little higher. Let it relax. Hum. Great. Jump. So we've turned on that phasic muscle just about 10%. We've readied it. We have readied it to move. Does that make sense? Hello, hello. What's that? I'm activating it, exactly. Now do me a favor, put your feet together, put your hands to your side, standing up nice and straight because your body's fully awake, right? Close your eyes, please, everybody, and do not move. Do not move, do not move, do not move, do not move. You're all still moving. Don't move, you're all still moving. You're all still moving, right? Go ahead and open your eyes. So that's called postural sway. Everybody say postural sway. The reason why we have postural sway is because we are unstable objects. Right? We aren't stable, right? We have these four curves. We're disproportionately weighted, right? Lots of you have heard me for 25 years. I've been saying we are two-spoked, disproportionately weighted, forward-propelling objects. Two spokes, it's our legs. Disproportionately weighted, we're all frontally weighted. Our weight is all forward of our spine. Our pelvis is forward of our spine. Our rib cage is forward of our spine. Our head weight is forward of our spine. I don't care how big your butt is, you are frontally weighted. All right? So we are two-spoked, disproportionately weighted, forward-propelling objects. Right? We are built to push forward. All right, great. So now that postural sway helps keep us balanced. You with me on this? Cool. Now here's what I'd like us to do. What I want to do, postural sway is a good thing, by the way, right? It should be our friend. Lots of times stand on one foot. Lots of times as we start to move around, we fight it. Don't fight it. Actually tell yourself that sway is going to keep me balanced. That sway is going to keep me balanced. Say that. Say it again. That sway is going to keep me balanced. So now if you try to fight it, try to fight this way. Don't let it happen. That's actually more off balance, isn't it? We as people, the second we go on one foot, we go, that little teeter thing shouldn't happen. No, absolutely it should. You're built to do that. And if you empower yourself to do it, you'll feel more balanced. If you tell your body that it's okay, not only is it okay, it's necessary. You with me on that? Feel that as you stand on one foot. And tell yourself it's okay. The sway is okay. Say that. The sway is okay. Nice. I know, right? Hashtag the sway is okay. Perfect. All right, great. But let's talk a little bit about what we can do with postural sway and how it applies to dance and readiness to be able to lead and follow, right? So I do this thing I call outward tonal energy. I also call it shiny red apple. I have lots of different names for it, right? But if from here, the reason why I say shiny, anybody want to tell me shiny red apple? What's shiny red apple? No idea? Okay. So my daughter takes ballet 4 times a week. She's hardcore. And her ballet mistress at their studio said to her a number of years ago, all the girls, I was there for a parent night, ladies, what are we? And they all went like this, and they all said in unison, shiny red apples. And she said, what does a shiny red apple mean? They raise your hand, and of course they raised their hand like this, right? So, and my daughter said, a shiny red apple is because the skin, there's light reflecting off the skin. Light's reflecting off the skin. Do that. Shiny red apple. Light's reflecting off your skin. Does that make sense? And then she asked another girl, what makes a healthy apple? She said a healthy seed. Where does the seed live? The seed lives in the core, right? Healthy seed, healthy core, shiny skin. Does that make sense? I took that and went, okay, what do? I take a seed, I put it in the ground. That's how I grow an apple tree. First thing that goes down is roots, and then the tree grows up. Let's bend our knees a little bit. Let's plant our feet as roots into the ground to push the tree up to create the shiny red apple. You with me on this? Cool. So you can put your feet together. They don't have to have turnout if you don't want. Everybody shiny red apple. Another way you can think about this is it's a pyramidal tone or outward tonal energy. Another thing you do is relax. What I want to do is lift into that and hum. Great, and relax. And just like let your knees walk, but we still have that kind of overall woken up hum, right? Now what I'd like you to do is put your arms to your side. I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to close your eyes, feel that you can control the postural sway. You're not stopping it, but you actually get to control which direction it goes and the duration of time that it goes in that direction. So you get to be proactive in your postural sway. So everybody do a little hum while your eyes are closed. Right, and feel that postural sway. You get to control it. Okay, open your eyes. Completely relax. No hum. Relax everything. No tone at all. Close your eyes. And feel that your postural sway now is reactionary. You're reacting to where it's deciding to go. As opposed to controlling it, it's kind of controlling itself. Can you feel the difference in those two? By the way, if you put your feet together, you feel it a lot more. Some of you have your feet apart. Right, put your feet dead together. Right, so feel everything relaxed. And feel how the body wants to sway where it wants to sway. Go tone, go hum. Now, feel that you can actually pick the duration of time and the direction that it goes so that you can be more empowered in your postural sway. Do you feel that, yes or no? Right? Cool. So immediately, by the way, this is what athletes do. So when athletes get into international ready position and they're ready to go, they're not completely relaxed because then their postural sway, they might be swaying backward as they need to go forward. Does that make sense? Cool. But they're also not full tone because full tone is too much muscular usage. Now they're not going to be effective to move either. Does that make sense? So they go 10% tonal hum from here, relaxed. So there's a little bit of usage in all the muscles, but there's still space for phasic muscles to turn on and off, which is more efficient. Yes? How we doing? Kind of, sort of, maybe? So this is a different way to immediately start to think about how you ready your body to dance. Does that make sense? So we want to make sure that our body's always ready to dance. So I always have, so before, Courtney, if I can borrow you, before, as I take Courtney's hand, this is already happening. Brandy and I always say, you come to the table with your affairs in order, right? I take this hand with my affairs in order. I don't take this hand and then try to figure out my own body, because my own body should be already figured out, so that when I take this hand, my proprioception is collecting lots of I already know this, so now I'm collecting this information. And she should be collecting this information. Does that make sense? Things like, wow, he must do lots of squats. I like his butt. So like, collecting information. Exactly. So that's called a callback. So like I immediately, as I pick up this hand, collect information. Does that make sense? Like things like right now, I already have a picture as I look over here. I know Courtney's arm length. I know how far away she is. Does that make sense? Like I know that I can get to her shoulder. Do you see, I let go and got to her shoulder, not looking at her, because I had already taken a picture of how bent her arm was. Does that make sense? I do that all the time. That is how I start my Jack and Jills, my Strictly Swings, and every possible social dance I do. So when at Atlanta Swing Classic recently, they did this thing where the pros were a band that lights up. And then it's called the Pro Hour. And for an hour, you're not allowed to ask us, but we come around and ask all of you. So we don't dance with each other, we only dance with you. So what I did is I sought every woman who was sitting in a back table nowhere close to the floor. Because the ones that are sitting on the floor like this are the ones that are probably going to ask me anyways. So I sought the ones that probably wouldn't ask me, right? So, but what I did, because it was the back floor, is I would take their arm, I go, would you like to dance? And after they took a breath, they said yes, right? And then I'd walk them to the floor and I would talk to them. And the whole time I'm collecting information. I'm collecting information. Is she fighting me in the walk? Is she shaking in her arm? Is she tense in her bicep? Is she fluid in her walk? Could I get my step in sync with hers? I do all that. I know that seems crazy, but it is what I do, right? Because I want to collect information. I want to know. Like I know that Courtney started to walk just a hair before I did. And so I sped up a little bit and caught up to her heel strike. Just now, as that all happened. None of this is good or bad or right or wrong. It's just information. I'm just collecting information. Does that make sense? And it's going to help me to better move my partner. It's going to help me to better follow my partner. Yeah? Cool, awesome, great. So before we can do anything else, we have to understand certain things about turning on our body, right? Before we can understand the shared center, we have to understand our own a little bit. And I only have 3 hours, so I'm going to have to skip ahead of some things. All right, some other things I want you to do. Put your foot behind. Put your foot behind. Great. Here's what I want you to do. Keep your hips level. Put your hands on your hips. Both legs perfectly straight. If I do not move my hip and I do not move my leg out, right? If I tell you to don't bend the back knee, but move your foot forward and you cannot lift your hips, yeah, good luck, right? Because we'll get to about there. Does that make sense? Cool. So, but if I told you to break the knee, the back knee, it would immediately swing the foot, wouldn't it? Yes? Do that again. Break the knee, swings the foot. So our body's made up of hinges and ball sockets, right? My knees are what we call a 1-degree hinge. My elbows are what's called a 1-degree hinge. Does that make sense? Multiple degree hinge in the wrist. My shoulder and my hips are ball sockets. Does that make sense? So my range of motion in my hip is far greater than the range of motion in my knee. You with me on this? Hello, hello? Great, okay, awesome. So natural leg swing, everybody say it. Natural leg swing has a couple of things. One, it's the idea that one leg passes the other, right? Two, that the knee moves the foot. The knee moves the foot. Say that. Right. So the knee moves the foot. Now, what's easy about natural leg swing is the body physics work themselves. Because the knee, listen to this, the knee breaks in the direction of the step. The knee breaks in the direction of the step. Say that. The knee breaks in the direction of the step. So when I take a step, my hinge breaks in the direction of the step. That's called natural leg swing. You with me on this? Cool. So this is important to know. As we swing, swing the leg. Great. Now here's another thing I want you to process about natural leg swing. The knee breaks in the direction of the step, and I push with the standing leg post clear. So what the hell did he just say? So I swing. I don't push with this leg until this foot has cleared. Right? So feel that. We're going to take 4 walking steps forward, and I want you to process that you push after the other leg has cleared. Ready? Go. 1, 2, 3, 4. You push post clear. Do you understand that? Let's try it again. I'll tell you why this is super important and where we make so many mistakes in West Coast swing based on this philosophy. Ready? Walk. Push, 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 push. Nice. Awesome. Great. Now, what we're going to do, what I want you to start to do, I want you to understand that you're going to lift up a leg to walk. When you lift up a leg to walk, when you're here and if you put your feet together, let's say we're all going to lift up our right leg in a second. You're going to lift up your right leg to take a step forward. That's all. You're just going to break the knee to take a step forward. What I want you all to process is your body sends weight to the left heel. Your body will send weight. It's called your center of pressure point. Your center of pressure point will go to your left heel and push you to walk forward. So you're going to lift the right leg to take a step. Ready, go. Did you all feel that your body shifted you to your heel? That's your center of pressure, right? Do it again. Ready, go. Beautiful. Yes, yes, yes. Cool. So now let's do it with the left leg. So you're going to pick up the left leg, and your right leg will shift weight back. Go ahead. That is natural. It's called flywheeling. Our body's like a flywheel, so it works like this. So it sends energy back to then go this way. Yeah, kind of, sort of. So one more time, pick a leg, I don't care, and take that step. Now do me a favor. Try to the best. Imagine we're going to do that. We're going to take that step again. I don't care what leg. That bounce back to your heel, imagine that being a gray dot. Imagine as that happens, it's a gray dot that bounces to the heel to then go forward. Can you imagine that? Try that. Ready, go. Gray dot bounces. Nice. That's how we walk, right? Now, do me a favor. Imagine when you pick up this foot, try to put the gray dot to the ball of the foot. So you're going to pick up, let's say we're all going to pick up our left, take a step forward. But as we do that, take the gray dot to the front of the foot. Don't let it go back. Go ahead. That's called falling. You feel that? That's called falling. Yes? Now here's where the problem lies. Walking backwards, there's no such thing as natural leg swing. The knee does not break in the direction of the step. So there's no natural physics. You with me on this? There's no natural physics. So we have to train ourselves. Put a foot in front. If all you did is break the knee to pull the foot back, there's no negative effect on the standing leg. Do it again. If I break the knee to pull the foot, there's no negative effect on the standing leg. Do you feel that? Cool. One more time. No negative effect on the standing leg. Now do me a favor. Try to pull this leg in towards you without breaking the knee. You can do it, but you start to immediately flex the standing leg. You're starting to affect the standing leg, and you get stuck. There's a moment at which you stick. Does that make sense? So like this is a huge problem for follows. 1, 2, 3, and we see them go 4 and pull a straight leg. And then they get stuck. And then you know what they do? They have to break both knees because there's tension in both. They break both knees and go into their anchor like this. If they understood 1, 2, 3, and 4 that the knee pulls the foot, they can clear that foot without negatively affecting this one and control their final step. Leaders, 5 and 6. Leaders start their center first, drag the foot, now they're stuck. So then they end up bending both knees as they go to take a step. If as they go 5 and 6, the knee pulls the foot, they can then push to walk backwards. You with me on this? Now, put a foot in front. Actually, put your feet together. We're going to lift our left leg from the knee. You're going to lift your left leg from the knee. To take a step backwards, you must bounce that gray dot forward. That gray dot must bounce forward to push you backward. Feel it? This is just biomechanics. This is not my opinion, by the way. This is absolutely 2 + 2 is 4. This is science. This is how our body. I just spent 5 hours with the top roboticist and biomechanics specialist at the Institute for Human Machine and Cognition. And we actually spent 2 hours at the whiteboard working out the mathematical equation for how the body walks. Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm going to get there. Hold on. Right. So now from here, so as I lift, I bounce forward to then push backward. Now, what I want you to understand, when you do that naturally, you're going to put your weight on your right, you're going to lift your leg, push backward. You should push, post, clear. Ready, go. Push. Does that make sense? Now, this is the biggest problem because you're taught 5 and 6 that your center goes first. You're pushing pre-clear. Leaders, this is bad, really bad, right? And I, 20 years ago, am guilty of teaching it. Move from your center, and then it moves the follows. Your center moves, and this is my favorite. Your center moves, and the feet follow. No bigger false statement has ever been made in dancing. Center does not determine direction. Your center does not determine direction. Your center empowers your standing leg. Your center empowers your standing leg. Your standing leg picks direction. So if my center empowers my standing leg, put your center over an empowered standing leg. The free foot moving from the knee, you can move it from the knee. I get to pick the direction and then push to move. And truth be told, if I put my weight on my right and I'm going to lift my left from the knee and that gray dot goes forward, if anything, my center of gravity slightly goes forward to walk backward. Not the other way around. You with me on this? Great. By the way, stepping sideways, the gray dot goes, if I'm going to step left, the gray dot bounces right to step left. And the gray dot bounces left to step right. So that's called your center of pressure point. It's called your center of pressure point. The best way to think of it, right? I don't know how full this is. The best way to think of it is if I was trying to balance this, right? So if I was trying to balance this, right? What I would have to do is move the center of pressure point, which is my hand, underneath it to keep it balanced. Does that make sense? That's what your feet are doing the whole time. That's the best modeling for center of pressure point. But check it out. If I wanted this to go that way, right, I wouldn't do this because it would fall. I would actually take it back to push it forward. Does that make sense? That's how we walk. That's how we move. So when I'm going to lead a follow, from here, I don't take my center and then the foot, right? From here, what happens is I empower a leg, clear a foot. Now we're both cleared. She already has a foot in front. So now I've cleared my foot too. Now we can both push. And that's how we move. Do you see the difference in that? This from here, boom, is much different than that. It's different to you, isn't it? Right. It's why follows will fall into one and have to catch themselves on two. You with me on that? So we tell leaders, lead from your center, don't lead from your arm, which is also wrong. We tell them lead from your center, and then we tell follows, hang back, and then follows go, leaders pull me too early, and follows go, they're too, and leaders go, they're too late, and follows go, they're too fast. Right, because we've taught them to do that. Yeah, well, I don't do one Ianda, but sure. Right, so check this out. From here, everybody put your weight on your left. You're all going to do a leader's footwork. Weight's on your left. Strike the ball. Keep going. Well, life on a farm is kind of laid back. No, I'm sorry. So from here, so as we strike, as I transfer weight, as I transfer weight onto that foot, clear the other foot behind. Okay, watch this. I don't go here, then clear. right? As I push, before I finish this leg, this should be cleared. If you had to take a step back, you did not take a controlled step. Because I didn't tell you to take a step back, right? If you did this and moved and had to take this step, you are wrongly dancing your body, right? Because I'm now telling you what to do. So now if you do it the other way, now it's wrong. Because you know what's right and you're choosing not to do it. So from here, strike, change weight, clear foot. I should still be controlled. If you moved, you are not controlling your step. Go from here. Strike, push, great. Now send yourself. That's a controlled step. Stretch happens prior to that. So 5 and, my 5 and into my 6 is where I'm feeling the stretch. From 6 to 1, what I shouldn't do from here is go 5 and 6, then go, now there's the stretch and 1. That should not happen. I know it's the earth is flat science that's been taught for 40 years, but it's the earth is flat science, right? Instead, as I go 5 and 6, put your weight here, take the 5 and 6, the stretch is happening on 5 and 6. Now I clear the foot and I move and I don't have to have that other thing. Right. Or you'll back yours up, right? So as we're here, the whole anchor in place, also crap, by the way. So as we're here, just nobody does it. So we're here, as we go 5 and 6, 5 and 6, that should be where our stretch is. Now I clear a foot, and because I'm taking the time to clear my foot, it gives you time to move back, doesn't it? But I'm not pulling you out of it. Because as you're finishing your final leg, as you're getting to that heel like your body wants to, put the gray dot on the heel, it gives you time to do it. And now we both get to push because our leg is cleared. Did you see that? That looks significantly different, doesn't it? As I go 5 and 6, my gray dot's forward, her gray dot's back. Now we both get to push post clear. Yeah? He's in the room, so I get to use him as an example. I can McKeever it. That's a word. McKeever's a word. Sean McKeever goes 5 and 6, and he does that sweep before he steps. That sweep that he does a couple of things. One, it makes him look like a badass, right? Cool. But 2, it also really empowers his standing leg and gives Courtney time to finish her leg. He doesn't go 5 and 6, start to move off and sweep, because that pulls you. Does that make sense? And so what we did is we went, okay, the center moves first. So if we truly went 5 and 6 and I was moving my center, that starts to pull you, doesn't it? Right? So then we said stay in place, 5 and 6, and then just do it right at the end. And that's where we get that and 1. How many of you want open heart surgery from techniques from 1947? Great, because that's that technique. You with me? It's that old. And I understand at the time the science hadn't appeared yet. So I get it. Does that make sense? But now the science is in. And that's not how we should move. Yes? How we doing? You doing okay? Great. Is this scaring any of you? Right? So check it out. So one of the things I do in my beginning classes is have them walk a box. I've said this for years, right? So you tell them, knee moves the foot, 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 knee moves the foot. Like right away. And I tell them, notice, when you walk, I have my beginners walk in a circle. And I tell them things while they're walking. Notice that as you start to walk, that your body goes to the heel before it pushes forward. Everybody will notice that. Notice when you walk that you push, post, clear, right? So you clear your foot and then you push. That's how we all walk. We clear our foot, then we push. Does that make sense? We clear our foot, then we push. How we doing? Right. And everybody goes, right. I go, do me a favor. Push before you clear the foot. Push first. Push before you clear the foot. That starts to become running, which we don't want to do. Yes? Sideways. Hold on. So now, when I walk backwards, I say, now when you walk backwards, do me a favor. Push after you clear. 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 Then I tell them, push pre-clear. Now you're falling. Does that make sense? That makes no sense, does it? Sideways. Clear the foot, push. Clear the foot, push. Clear the foot, push. Collect your feet, push, then clear the foot. That's falling. Gravity has no rhythm. It has a constant pull, but it has no rhythm. So if I'm falling, I can control nothing. Does that make sense? Kind of, sort of, maybe? Yeah? Okay, so push, 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 push. So how soon do I introduce how you take a step? Right away. Because this is easy stuff. People get that right away. Does that make sense? Cool. Now, what's hard is the walking backwards, because we spend half of our time walking backwards. So like follows, as I go 1, 2, 3, and I have to make sure I clear this foot for 4. Then I clear this foot from the knee to take my 5 and 6. Yeah. And where do we move the foot? What moves the foot? The knee. By the way, osteopathic medicine, like NYU School of Osteopath, Palmer School of Chiropractic, Life School of Chiropractic, right? The Feldenkrais system, the Alexander system, the applied kinesiology system, the ideokinesiology system, right? All of them have in writing in their books, in biomechanics, that the knee moves the foot. Does that make sense? This whole my center moves the foot, or my head moves the foot, or any of that stuff is crap. See you all. I know, I'm excited. Yes?
So when you bend the knee and you're going forward, does that put the weight on the ball of the left foot?
Right, do me a favor. So do this, put your feet together. Put your feet together, right? You're going to bend your right knee as if you're preparing to take a forward step. Your weight went to the heel, didn't it? Your weight went to the opposing heel. Bend the knee and take the weight to the opposing ball. You wouldn't do that. You're going to fall. Do you feel that? Bend the knee to take a step, and your weight goes to your heel. Can you feel that? Yes or no? Now you feel very comfortable to take a step, don't you? Right? Yes. You can say and for the right. I just because I don't do it doesn't mean it's not an effective tool for some people. Right. Okay. Okay, great. Right, because it's right.
So I talked to Milko a number of years ago. So one of the secrets that we really had was telling me like you
It's fine.
okay?
It's fine.
Teaching, I'm worried about
Vicky, it's good.
we have to change everything. She went to another intensive.
Right.
She's changing everything. Okay, so they said that you bend your knee on the up. So the difference being 5 and 6 and 1 versus 5 and 6 and
Oh yeah. So right. No. That's fine. But so that's called cueing. Everybody say cueing. Say it again. Cueing. That's called cueing, where I give you a cue. Taking your belly button to your spine is a cue. If I say on the and or the that's where you bend the knee. I'm giving you a cue. Does that make sense? Cueing is effective. It's a good teaching tool. Does that make sense? Just understand that cueing shouldn't be always and for every student. Because actually what I tell my followers to do is to break their knee, is to break that knee as they're ready to move forward. And depending on the gentleman's timing, it might be different. You might have to break it sooner, you might have to break it later. I'm not a fan of targeted teaching when it comes to the follows system. Like at beginning level, that's fine. Here's what you tell them. For right now, as you take your basic, so you're going to you go 5 and 6, E and Great. So tell them, this is how I would like you to do this for right now. Eventually, this is going to change, and there are variations. But for right now, this is how I would like you to do it. Make sure you say that, because it stores in a different part of the memory brain. So we have pyramidal and extrapyramidal parts of our cells, as well as in our memory system. No, of course. Right. Well, it doesn't matter who you're talking to. If you tell them, break on the tell them for now, because I need to fix some things. Then we're going to soften it, and it can break at different moments depending on the needs of the system. Does that make sense? Because if the guy's pulling fast, and she goes 5 and 6, right, and he pulls fast, I might need her to get to this heel to empower this leg on and. Does that make sense? Like, I don't want her fighting the situation. Right. Well, you'll learn in a second that the knee and the elbow must work in conjunction with each other. I won't straighten my elbow without straightening my knee. I won't bend my elbow without bending my knee. Does that make sense? So that the journey to center is the same. You with me on that? Cool. So I'll talk about that in a second. All right. So you can totally use it if you're going to do targeted cueing. Like count 4 for follows. In an underarm turn follows, on count 4, I always want you sideways in the slot. I want you 45 degrees. I want you square in the slot. By 6, I always want you square. That's targeted cueing, right? We're giving them a target that they must hit, right? That's super efficient at the beginning level as long as you tell them that that's going to change. Does that make sense? If you do not tell them that's going to change, it'll be a harder habit for them to unlearn later.
Yeah, I learned that from you several times ago.
Right.
You tell me you store it in a different part of the brain.
Store a different part of the brain, right. So if I say, this is for now, you will learn it. It can even become a habit. But if you go to unlearn it later, it's easy. Because your body has already said, you're going to be able to let go of this. If you say this is always, your body stores it differently in the brain cell, right? And then when you go to unlearn it, it's very difficult to unlearn. Does that make sense? Dr. Martha Stark, who is an expert on optimal stressors of the neurologic system for learning, right? She teaches at Harvard Medical School, is a very good friend of mine, and we've spent probably 20 hours working on how the brain remembers things under optimal stress of learning. Does that make sense? So, again, everything I teach you is going to be based on science, and if it's my opinion, I will tell you. Does that make sense? Opinion, science, I will tell you. There's 2 ways you will learn this dance. Church and school. Church is faith-based, school is science-based. You with me on that? The faith-based stuff, go have a good time. I'm going to be science-based. Does that make sense? When it comes to learning this dance, I'll say. Yes? All right, great. Now we understand a little bit about walking forward and walking backward. Yes? Cool. So I need to understand all that before I ever worry about connection. Great? Now I want you to do me a favor. What I want you to do is I want you to put your hands like this. I want you to bend your elbows and your knees at the same time. Go here. Boom. Now extend out, contract in, extend out. Now do me a favor, keep your arms out and bend just the knees. Great, cool, come here. Now just bend the elbows. Great, do that again. Now just the knees. Great, now knees and elbows at the same time. Bend, extend, bend, extend. Now when you do that, right, as that happens, bend both, ready, go. Do you feel you used your abdominals a little bit? Straighten. Do you feel you use your chest and your abs? Do me a favor, just do the knees. You didn't have to use anything, did you? Do this? Don't have to do anything, do you? You become an appendage dancer, where you're just dancing the appendages and no usage of the body. Does that make sense? So we want to start to attach our parts. So the way our muscles work, right, the way your muscles work, we have what's called a muscular sling. And the muscles work this way, and they work this way. So what happens, come here, Stu. What happens is, stand right here, you have your latissimus dorsi, your lat. Everybody knows about your lats. Everybody talks about your lat. That's your latissimus dorsi. It turns into a very thin white tendon, which is called an aponeurosis, right? And it becomes what's known as your thoracolumbar fascia. And it comes down here, and it attaches. It comes right by the L4, attaches to the spinous process at the L4, right? Spinous process, and then comes down to the top of the glute. The glute also has that same aponeurosis that attaches there. From the glute, we attach down into the IT band, to the 5 different parts of the hamstring, into the quadriceps to support the knee. So literally, that's how the muscles work in this kind of a chain, in a cross chain. Does that make sense? In the front, your pec major, right? Your pec major attaches to your abdominis rectus, which attaches down here. We have our psoas and our iliacus, which happen into there, which go into the quadricep. So the exact same thing. We have a muscular sling that works this way. Does that make sense? Cool? Super important to know, right? As dance teachers, do I think you need to know that? Yeah. So as dance students, do I think you need to know all that? You don't need to know the names. You just need to know that it works that way. Does that make sense? So we kind of have 3 bands in our body. We have one that goes this way. Do this. We have one that goes this way. We have another one that goes this way. These are like, think of bungee cords. So do it again. Stretch this way, and then we do have our erectus spinalis, our erectus spinae, right? We do have muscles that go straight up the spine, right? So the way the spine works is you have these things called transverse processes, which look like little wings off the vertebrae, and then you have one off the back that looks kind of like a shark fin, right? That's your spinal process. So you have these, and which makes there a little groove. Does that make sense? And in that groove sits muscles. You with me on that? Can you kind of picture that? It's like this, and then there's a muscle that sits in there, right? Cool, that goes up. So we have one band that goes this way too, don't we? So go this way. So we have a band that goes this way, right? And by the way, that band, is it in front of my body? No, it's attached to my spine. So I'm stretching my back, exactly. Cool, so I have here, and I have here. You with me on that? So everybody do that. Now I like to take that all the way to the back foot. and then all the way to the back foot, and then all the way to the back foot, and then all the way to the back foot. Again, all the way to the back foot, all the way to the back foot. And when I do this, I like to make sure that this goes all the way through the back of my legs. So I feel that in the back of my hamstrings, stretching all the way in the back of my hamstrings. Feel that again? Boom, boom, boom. Nice. Can you feel that? Yes or no? By the way, this is super important because if I wanted to do something like stand here like this, give me this hand. Great, from here. Like if I wanted to do this, how many ladies in here would like to be good at 1-foot turns? Great. So as I take this from here, this is the band that's stretching. So this hip closes to this shoulder. Most follows take this shoulder to this. The problem with that is it throws you off axis, right? From here, this closes to the axis I've already set. So I close the opposing hip to the shoulder. That's how I get my 1-foot turn, not shoulder to shoulder, because that will always throw me off axis. You with me on that? So people think about this band, but this band doesn't exist. There's no muscular band that exists here, right? There's a muscular band here, there's one here, and there's one there. So that this is where I get into my 1-foot turn. You with me on that? Cool, thanks. Super important to understand, right? How we doing? Yeah? Well, we're all getting this. I know you're not moving a lot, but what little I'm making you move is going to improve your overall quality of movement. Yes? Okay, great. Now, you have 10 points of balance in your body, right? So the pads of the hand, touch the pads of your hand. Touch the pads of your hand, right? So that's a point of balance or a leverage point, right? If I was to do push-ups, right, I would doing them on the pads of my hand is easier than my knuckles or my fingertips, right? If I was going to try to push this wall, I would use the pads of my hand to push. Yes? Cool. So 2. 4 is your shoulders. And it's not just one part of your shoulder, it's the entire shoulder socket, right? So 2, 4. 6 is your hips. Again, the entire hip socket. You with me on this? 8 is your knees, right? 8 is your knees. And 10 is the balls of your feet. Points of balance, right? Cool. So some people call them leverage points. That works too, right? But points of balance, right? So balls of the feet, go to the balls of the feet. Great. Knees, hips, shoulders, hands. Now what's interesting is the hands will attach to the outer world. So the hands will attach to the outer world. You with me on this? So as we set them up, great. Now do me a favor, take your shoulders, roll them way back. And you don't feel kind of as ready, do you? Roll them way forward. You don't feel as ready there either. Set them up. Great. Okay, so feel like you're ready. Click your heels. So you feel like your body's ready. Great. Take your hips, push them forward. And you don't feel as ready, do you? Go way back. You don't feel like you're ready to dance, right? Set up. Great. So everything's set up. Great. Turn your knees in. You don't feel as ready. Turn them out. You don't feel as ready. Set your knees up. What's super interesting is if the points of balance aren't in alignment, if just 2 of them are off, everything's off. Because let's say my shoulders and my hip, click your heels. And so your shoulders and your hips are in the ready position, but turn your knees in. You don't feel as ready, even though other points are where they're supposed to be. Does that make sense? Cool. So we want to make sure that our 10 points of balance are always in alignment. Now, we could say at different times, we could say that we have 12, and the 12 are the elbows, right? So the elbows become a point of balance when the hands are supporting any level of body weight. Because if I do this like this, do this, move your elbows in, move them out, doesn't really affect your balance. I could be here and be ready, I could be here and be ready, they're both ready. Does that make sense? Cool. So I can move them when there's no connection to the hands, and it doesn't have any effect. You with me on this? But if I were to go down and do a push-up, where I have body weight, my elbows now affect my balance, don't they? Hello? Great, cool. My elbows affect my balance the same way my knees affect my balance. Once I'm down into a push-up. Yes? What was that? All right, got it. No whispering. All right, so we can talk a little bit about the elbows as being like extra points of balance only when weight is fully committed through the hands. So if I'm a follow and a leader takes both my hands and takes me off, like if I'm doing a showcase number, right? And the leader takes me off my weight and I'm like this, now my elbows are also a point of balance. Because moving my elbows at all affects my balance. You with me on that? Generally speaking in life, your elbows are not a point of balance. When it comes to leveraged movements, where you're using your hands to support any portion of your weight, now your elbows are a point of balance. You with me on that? Now, for those of you that have taken my classes before, that's a new one. right? The elbows being points of balance is a new one because they're not always. You could say that they're phasic points of balance. They're only used in phases. Does that make sense? Whereas the other ones are tonal points of balance. They're used all the time. How we doing? Great, cool. Now, 4 of these points of balance talk to the outer world at all times. What 4? Feet and hands. My feet and hands. They talk to the outer world at all times. Does that make sense? So I want the journey from my feet to my center of gravity and the journey from my hands to my center of gravity to be identical. Right? So I want to make sure that what's happening from the ground up is identical to what's happening from the hand in. Yeah? So that what starts to happen a little bit, can I borrow you? How you doing? Yep. Great. So from here, just give me this hand here. Yep. What happens is, if I, watch this, if I strike, do a leg action, then go back, now he feels it in the hand, he gets what I would say is a completed leg. He gets the end of my leg action. Back up just a little bit, sorry on camera. Listen to this. He gets the end of my step. So if my leg is all doing something different than my arm, if the journey from here to here isn't the same from here to here, he gets just the end, and now he can know to pull if you wanted to pull. So put yourself on your right foot so you're ready to lead me forward on 1 when you feel it. Does that make sense? So if I do this, and then he pulls, right? So he got the end of the leg. Now for the record, I'll take this. It's not perfect, but I'll take it. What would be better is if he got the duration. Say duration. Say it again. If he got the duration of the leg action, because he feels it in the arm. So what happens is you will feel the arm. I strike on the floor just as much as I strike in the hand. And then the leg and the arm stretch simultaneously for him to move me. Do you feel that? So now he gets the duration of my leg. He gets start to finish what's going on in my leg. And it looks different too, doesn't it? You bet. If I am extending my leg, I am extending my arm. If I am bending my leg, I am bending my arm. My journey to center is identical, so that he feels exactly what I'm doing at all times. I don't do something from the floor to my center that is different from the hand to my center, because then I'm not giving him all the information. Does that make sense? And I don't want him doing it either. The whole do whatever you want but don't affect the hand, probably in the top 5 worst things ever taught, right? So, and I'm guilty of teaching it. So, because it actually limits information. We want to expand on information. The more information my partner has as a leader or a follower, the better their choices will be. Does that make sense? More information is always better than less. You with me on this? Yeah.
So it's still correct to say, move his hands when he's playing.
Right. We'll get to that. You bet. Right. And I'll get to that for sure. So that's totally fair. Here's the way you would just change that sentence. I don't want you negatively affecting the leader's hand. You can positively affect it by telling him what you're doing, but I don't want you to negatively affect it. Right? And then I'll talk about how we make that happen. Right? So, but when you just say don't affect the hand, people start to do stuff without moving the hand. Does that make sense? And now you feel nothing. If I went 5 and 6, you feel nothing until the end, and oh, by the way, now pull me, please, right? As opposed to if I give you the duration of that final leg, you know when to move me. You can see it, can't you? Yeah, it looks way different, right? Because the journey to center is different. Now, cool, thanks. Now, I hate that this is on video, but it has to be because I'm going to do something very stupid looking, right? So if I'm going to do a push-up, if I do a push-up the way we teach dance, that my center moves first, right? That my center moves first, and then my arms and my hands move. That's how we teach dance, right? The center moves first, then arms and hands respond. Arms, hands, and feet respond, right? That's how we're taught. Center first, appendages second. Yes? Okay. Now, so I'm going to do a push-up, but I'm not going to engage anything. I'm going to go center first because I don't want to arm lead and I don't want to leg lead. Okay, at some point I have to do this. And by the way, my spine is really tight right now. That's super efficient, right? No, not at all. That's not at all how you would do a push-up. Yes? What's that? Right, thanks. So we're like this now. So does that mean that my center wouldn't turn on? Of course it would turn on. I would have what? I would have those phasic muscles just a little bit, just about 10%, like tonal hum. Does that make sense? So from here, I would have tonal hum. And then this actually would move my center. And now, by the way, my spine is quite relaxed because I've used my arms to move my center, not my center to move my arms. Thank you. Right. I do lots of push-ups. Right. So, but think about that, right? So now, if we did this, so we're going to soften our knees. You're all going to get with a partner in a second, and we're going to do this, right? And it can be girl, girl, boy, boy, doesn't matter. From here, if we soften our knees, from here, soften your arms too. What I want us to think about doing is we have what's called a two-plane system. We have an X and a Y axis. Any science people in here? Any engineers? Math? Any of that? Right, cool. So we have an X and a Y axis. You with me? X and a Y axis. So we have the X and Y are two planes. So if we think about the floor, it's like if I took one of these squares and I took another square and I put it right in the middle like this. Does that make sense? So we have two planes. Say that. One plane is called the plane of propulsion. That's the plane at which we propel ourselves. That's called the plane of propulsion. Just do that around. The plane of propulsion. So say propel. Propulsion. Push. Right, cool. The plane of propulsion. It's how we propel. It's not the plane of catching. It's not the plane for which I catch my balance. I'll stay here for a second. What's that? Right, that's the drunk dance, right. It's not the plane of catching, it's the plane of propelling. Now, this middle imaginary plane is called the plane of connection, right? It's where we create something called a center-countered point, a point at which we both counter off of, as if there were a ballet bar between the two of us. Hold my thumbs like a ballet bar, right? So, and that we're going to both counter off of that point. Does that make sense? So we're both countering off of that point. Yeah. Now, as soon as we do that, if we were like, using VR cameras, the second we pushed away, like a field would go, vroom, we could see the field at which we were both pulling off of. Does that make sense? Now, bend the knees from here. If we both think about, now, this plane of propulsion, how much of the plane of propulsion do I get to use? All of it, right? Cool. So, can I use all of the plane of connection? Yes, of course. All of this. Does that make sense? Not just one part. I get to move my hands. You with me on this? So from here, if we soften, if we from our hands and the balls of our feet in our hands, if we both push our center away, boom, great. Now move your spine. It's quite free, isn't it? We're connected, but we have lots of freedom of spine. Cool. Soften again. This time, let your center go away first, and then catch at the feet and the hands. Now move your spine, and it doesn't move as much. If I use my center to create connection, I don't get to dance. I don't get to dance my dance. My center should not be used to create connection. My center should be used for my balance and my dance. My center should be used to free up my spine so that my spine can dance. My spine and my center belong to me, not to her. So at no point does my center create connection, because now my spine doesn't get to dance. My hands and my feet send my center away. Now my spine is free to dance. You with me on this? It's different. The energy source actually in proprioception goes from here to here, not here to here. But we've been taught this from day one, haven't we? Because we're afraid of arm leading. I get it. So for fear of a negative, we taught another negative. We basically taught a lesser of the two evils. Does that make sense? Instead of just teaching it right. Maybe being better teachers and teaching it right. Sure.
Okay, so because I kind of knew what you were saying, they were saying, last dance, hold all this, whatever, and the people were saying, yeah, but Vicki, you're doing all this, and I said, well, you have to know when to kick it back in, when you have to, like I would say on the end of the connection, you want to make sure you're there, and then you can let it go. So if that's false?
I would say that's false. And the reason why is because you're going to be dancing lots of times with leaders that have no compensation skill and won't give you the time to know, because I don't know that I would trust that you'll let it go. Does that make sense? And you're giving me two different senses of communication. One's a held spine, then it's releasing, then it's held, then it's releasing. That's confusing for me. That's ADD. I want your spine, I want your liberated spine when you dance the whole time. The only time I want you to hold your spine, that I want you to hold in any sort of rigidity in the spine, is if I take you off center completely to do some sort of slide or trick. Then I need you holding your abdominals. Other than that, I do not want that.
Okay, so what's a better way of saying when I hit the end of the connection, I want you there?
Well, so here's the thing. I don't want, everybody say catch. I don't want a catch.
Well, it's not a pull. I don't pull that much.
Hold on. I want you to send yourself away. See, I'm pushing myself away into all of that. I'm not grabbing.
Okay.
You with me on this?
Yeah.
Here's the deal. I don't want you jumping off of a cliff and then grabbing a rope on your way down. Does that make sense? I want you using your arms to start to lower yourself down the cliff with the rope.
How do you get them to not keep going? In other words, not going. Send yourself away.
Right. So you have to do your job. Here's, go like this. Go like this. On the side. Lift your arms. Great. Cool. Go like this. Right? When you lift your arms, notice there's some bend in the arms. If I were to lock my elbows out, it starts to unseat my shoulders. Do you feel that? Go down again. Lift. Great. Lock your elbows. Feel it start to unseat your shoulders. So tell them to say out loud, this is bad. This is bad. Say it again. This is bad. Great. So go here. Great. Bend. Bend. Great. Cool. Now tell them, go out to the point before you unseat your shoulders. Great. Come back in. Now as you have to start, you have your elbows past your body, get to the point where you feel like your shoulders start to unseat. That's bad. So now stick there. Go, okay. What do I call that? Anybody know what I call that? Point of no more or bounce point. Point of no more or bounce point. That's it. I give no more. So go like this, go like this, go like this. That's it. Now, if a leader still continued to pull on me, what would I do? Walk forward. I don't give that up. Does that make sense? So you have to set the parameters in their mind quickly. Does that make sense? So just like you can have them do this. Let me do this with Stu because of weight. From here, if I said, I want to ease myself away, right? So I ease myself away to there because I can pull myself back. What I don't want to do is ease myself away to there. That's bad. Does that make sense? And if if I lean on it and I push, I'm going to push myself to there to then ease myself back. I'm not going to push myself to there. Does that make sense? So actually have them do that up against a wall. Tell them to go up against a wall. Be kind of like bend the knees and tell them to push themselves away to a comfortable place. And the knees back. Then tell them to push past that. Ooh, they start to lose their balance. All kinds of negative things start to happen. So before you even put them into connection, they have to feel this in their own body. What's their own range of motion? Does that make sense? So I have students now, lots of them, high level and low level, that go up against the wall to warm up, and they push their center, and they push their center, and they push their center, right? Then in my studio, I have a ballet bar, and I have them lean away, and I have them pull their center. Does that make sense? And I have them pull their center. Yes, yes, yes? Cool? And as opposed to trying to move the center first. Yeah? Right. My center point of balance, right, or the, not center point of balance, my center countered point, I'm pushing away from. So somebody tell me the three parts of a step. What are the three parts of a step? What are the three parts of a step? Anybody know? Strike, leg action, weight transfer. So I have strike, I have leg action, I have weight transfer. I can do them all separately. Strike, leg action, weight transfer. Great. I can do strike, weight transfer at the same time. Now leg action. Does that make sense? You with me on that? When we walk, we do leg action, strike, weight transfer. Because you complete your leg action when you walk forward, right? Your leg action completes, you strike, then you weight transfer. You with me on this? Right? Cool. So if I have strike, action, transfer, I do the same thing in the hand, both as a leader and as a follower. So what happens is, put your weight on this foot, Great. As we go 5 and 6, 5 and on 6, you feel strike, you feel arm action, you feel weight transfer. You feel exactly what my leg did because it was identical to what my arm was doing. Does that make sense? So I think so too. All right, so from here, so as I go 5 and 6, she gets full range of motion for what I'm doing. At no point am I going 5 and 6 and there's no information going on in the arm. Yeah. Now this is hard, just so you know, this is hard, right? So I'm not going to lie to you, right? It's so hard, we found other ways to teach you a half-truth that gets you close. But then you wonder why you don't look like the other people. Some people find this through their own means. Some people are doing this and not teaching it because they don't even know that they're doing it. Does that make sense? Oh, yeah. Right. So it's come from lots of analysis. Does that make sense? So I've been doing lots of slow-mo and VR stuff. I'm getting into thermo cameras, and I'm working with the Institute of Human Movement, Human Machine Cognition, which they're one of the foremost authorities on exoskeletons for paralyzed people. So they create like the legs for paralyzed people to walk. Does that make sense? So in working with them, they've done some of the most extensive research on how the human body moves because they're trying to recreate it with exoskeletons. Does that make sense? So I've spent a ton of time with them. I have lots of geek out videos, of like just amazing things. So, and it's been so interesting to understand really where energy starts, right? Where movement starts from. It's not where we think it starts from. All right, so now do me a favor. Get with a partner. Can be girl, girl, boy, boy, I don't care. Get with somebody. All right, so now, how we doing partner-wise? Are we close? Yeah, and you come out here with me, Michelle. So check this out. So what I want to do is I want to first, right, we're going to bend our knees, bend our elbows. I want to first, remember when we did the extend and contract? Remember when we did that? Right? So I want to do that with each other. I want to feel like, but now here's the deal. When we extend, I'm not going to push at Michelle. Does that make sense? I'm actually going to have both of us kind of push down. So we're going to kind of push ourselves away from this shared plane. Does that make sense? Don't worry about how this applies to anything else. Just like bend the knees, bend the elbows. Great. Send yourselves away. Ready, set, go. Send yourselves away. Now move your spine. Your spine's quite free. Do you feel that? Now, okay, come back. Bend the elbows, bend the knees. This time, have your center go back first. So look at me. So that there's there's a vertical pull that happens in the arm. So your center goes first to a pull. Hold on, come back. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Now move your spine. And it's not nearly as free. Can you feel the difference in that? Like, it's extreme, isn't it? You're like, the first time I really started to do this experiment, I was like, oh my God. Like, we're telling dancers to lock up their spines. Right? And then they watch us be all fluid and do all the stuff we're doing. By the way, have any of you, and maybe none of you have, but have any of you taken a workshop from Benji and then a workshop from, say, Brandy and felt like their systems were drastically different? The shared centered system, where we understand movement from the shared center, we have two shared centers really because we have two shared planes, right? So we have the shared plane of propulsion and we have the shared plane of connection. Does that make sense? You all with me on that? Hello? So if it radiates from the hand to me and my spine is mine, I can do whatever I want with my spine. So for me, if I go 5 and 6 and I'm sending myself away, as I go 5 and I'm sending myself away, I can do this and take a step back and it never negatively affects Michelle. If my center is the thing that creates connection, and now I do this, that starts to pull on her right away. Does that make sense? So whether I'm doing Robert Royston, where my hips and my feet go to walk, right? Or I'm doing Sean McKeever, right? Or I'm doing Benji, none of that negatively affects Michelle because I'm sending myself from the center, keeping my spine for me. Now my spine gets to make whatever choices it wants without negatively affecting her. If my spine is the foundation for connection, any movement I do affects the connection. Does that make sense? What's that? Right. So, which is great, because then what happens is it opens up, if we understand the shared centered system, it opens up the ability to create multiple body styles so that Kyle, me, Benji, Jordan can all look quite different, but all have a really good feel in the hand to the follow. Does that make sense? Yeah. No, go ask. Because we can see it, right? Right. Yeah. Yep. So come here for a second. No, it's all right. Michelle, come here. Michelle, come here. So what I want, actually, Michelle, you stand there. You come this way. What's your name?
Michaela.
Michaela, stay right there. You stand like this, Michelle. In the middle. Great. Put your hand in the middle. Right. Perfect. Great. So what we're going to do is soften the knees. We're both going to push ourselves away from this. Ready, go. Push yourself away. To the point of countering it. Now, push yourself away. Now, do you see what she just did? She did this, which is the worry that you have, right? So we have to soften. Great. Push yourself away just to the point of, right. So now we should feel this. Relax your arm, Michelle. Let us hold it up. So we should be countering. Counter it. There it is. So we're the thing that's keeping her arm up. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah. From there, I should actually be able to get to your feet. Does that make sense? Because we're countering it. I should even be able to get to your hips.
So her arm's the y-axis.
Her arm's the y-axis. Exactly. Look, I can make her wave, and I'm not doing this. Does that make sense? So as we soften, right, come closer. Push yourself away from the y-axis. Nice. Now move your spine. So that's all yours. Beautiful. Great. I can go right to your feet, can I? All through the y-axis, right? And by the way, I can do this without telling you, right? Or I can tell you that I'm doing it. Do you see that? So this is a good exercise, right? Well, because now we have a physical thing. Does that make sense? That creates the illusion of this bigger. Right. So what happens is, if I do something like a slingshot from here, we still have it in between the two of us. It's now here, isn't it? Right? If I did this, it still exists. Does that make sense? When I go into something like a sugar tuck, it's here. We're both pushing off of it. Does that make sense? So we're both pushing off the y-axis to then move you through. You with me?
Yeah, it's you have to really pay attention for it.
Yeah, right. So, yes, right. And like I said, this isn't easy, right? This isn't easy. What's super interesting is, could you see that Michelle felt what was going on through the arm as well? Like she was like, oh, we're walking. Oh, we're rolling. Like she could feel it all through right. She could feel it all through the arm as well. Does that make sense? You were the y-axis, right? You've always been the Y, Michelle. All right, so let's go. Let's try this again. So you're going to push yourselves away. Ready, set, go. Push yourself away. Great. From there, move your spine. Awesome. One of you pick who the leader is. Just say, I'm going to be the leader, or you're going to be the leader, right? And start to walk your feet. Start to walk your feet side to side, right? And see if you can put your feet into your hands. So what does that mean? That means that if I put pressure, look at me. Look at me. Go like this with your hand. Go like this with your hand. Pick a foot up. Push it into the floor. Pick the other foot up. Push it into the floor. Am I using muscles in my foot at strike? Yeah. Am I articulating through my foot muscularly? Hello? Yeah. So can we please learn to articulate through our hands muscularly? We're so afraid to teach people to use their hands. But pick your foot up and don't flex it. Don't do anything. Let it be completely relaxed. Put it down completely relaxed. Did you work through the foot? No. So I don't want this. Now, pick your foot up, make your foot static. Flex it completely. Do not let it change from the flex and step. Did that work through it? No. So I don't want your hands to be static, nor do I want them to be relaxed. I want you to learn to articulate your hands just like you articulate your feet. Does that make sense? Super important. These are all things dance teachers are afraid of. And people are always afraid of teaching something they don't know. You with me on that? Cool. So from here, right, as we soften and push away, great, now we have this, move the spine. You should have what feels like connection in the hands. As you start to walk, put some articulation into the hand. Put your feet into your hands. Now try not. Don't do the hands at all. Try to keep the hands static. Right? And by the way, I don't have to do this. If my hands are static, I have to do this. I take this big, giant motion. If I put my feet and my hands, if there's strike happening, strike, 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 strike in the hand, I don't have to do some sort of big, overly articulated body movement. Because again, if my body's being used to move her, I don't get to dance it for myself. Did y'all get that? If my body's being used to move her, I don't get to dance it. Because if I dance my body anything outside of the basic I need her to do, it negatively affects her. Do y'all get that? Can I drive that home enough? Your spine is for you. Your spine and your hips are for you. For you to dance, for you to create style. It's how Brandy can do her this. Deborah can do this. Tori can do this. All of those different things that they do and not negatively affect the hand. Because what they do in their spine isn't about the hand. The hand sends them back. This is theirs. This doesn't say, now I'm connected. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah, for sure. Right? So if I'm here like this, right, I have a shared center that's moving both of us. So I'm pushing you and I both from the shared center. I'm not moving you. Does that make sense? And my center isn't moving away in hopes that you grab. Like I don't go, my center moves and now we stretch and I move you. That makes no sense, right? But if I put you on this foot and I go from here, I go, oh, I'm going to send myself away. That sends you away to create the stretch to start to move you. Does that make sense? Just like if we were here, like coming close, chest to chest. Great. So from here, I am going to think about moving, so you feel me moving to a connection to then get you to start to move. Does that make sense? So if I want you to start to move, like in close embrace tango, right, we're moving from the shared center. Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Doesn't matter what the dance is. Yeah. 100%. Here's the thing. It's really hard. The other person needs to know their stuff too. You have to come to the table what? With your affairs in order. Yeah, it's hard. Now, there are some compensation things you can do, right? So like, if I'm dancing with a leader or a follower, that's kind of like no real connection. I don't seek it vertically. I don't seek it this way, because that's adversarial. So if we're here like this, and I go, ooh, he's really loose, right? I don't go, I need you to give me connection. If I do it at all on this plane, listen to me, it's adversarial. You with me on that? What I do instead is I go, hey, I would really like some connection. You immediately did it because I pushed out. You don't have to, you're not feeling like I'm asking you to combat anything. So follows, lead me in a sugar push. You dance with a leader that doesn't give you much connection, right? As you head in, push out. And he'll push back. Out. Out. Right. So if we're loosey-goosey, right, I go, zoop. But I'm not pulling you forward. But I've asked for lots of connection, right? If you're loosey-goosey, I don't go, hey, I need connection. That becomes adversarial. You have to fight that. You with me on that? So there's this guy named Newton. He's pretty smart, right? So he had these 3 laws of motion, right? Law of inertia, the law of inertia. An object in motion stays in motion, right? The law of acceleration. What's the equation? Come on, what's the equation for the law of acceleration? What? Force. Force equals mass times acceleration, right? And then the law of thrust and counterthrust, what's that? For every action? Equate opposite reaction. Exactly. So if I'm here and I push on you, you're going to push on me. If I pull on you, you're going to pull on me. It's instinct. Does that make sense? If I expand, you will also expand. So this created lots of connection away without being adversarial. You with me? Exactly. Exactly. So I went, whoop. I used this plane. When I first started teaching this, I taught it in an intensive with Brandy here, actually. And then we went, so we taught it here New Year's Eve a bunch of years ago, and then went to England and taught an intensive in England like 3 months later. And Brandy said, I have to say this, I haven't said this to Robert yet, but that outward tonal energy, when there's a lack of connection, has been a lifesaver. She said it was a tool that I think I'd used before and never knew it, and now that I know it and own it, I use it with so many more leaders. And she goes, and it fixes so much. She said, I never realized how extending out is far more efficient than away. Right, so here's what I'm going to do. Right, so now, what I want you to do is stand here like this. Come on. Relax. Right, soften the knees just a little bit. From the knees and the feet, what I'd like you to do, right, is so pick who's going to lead first, right? And I want that person that's leading to feel if they can extend and encourage the other person to do the same. Great. Do it again. Out. Out. Great. Now switch leads. Let the other person do it. Now do me a favor. There's no connection. Try to create the connection. Listen to me. Try to create the connection vertically, like by pulling away. That's adversarial, isn't it? Do you feel that? Reel in the arm a little bit, like pulling the arm. That's adversarial. Does that make sense? Let the body go away and hope that they grab. Adversarial, right? Use expansion. Do you feel that? It should feel very connected and very free. Yes? Go ahead. Yeah, by the way, just so you know, everybody extend your arms out like this. Extend your arms out like this. Extend your arms out like this. Flex your biceps. You don't get much of your bicep. Put your elbows in close. Bend your elbows. Now flex your biceps. You get lots of bicep. Does that make sense? Cool. So we can get rid of biceps through expansion. So if I'm dancing with a follow that's very bicep-y, or a leader that's very bicep-y, that's a word, I guess. Bicep-y, right? So if I'm dancing with someone who's doing that, I expand because I get rid of their biceps. Yeah. Yes. Yes, absolutely, absolutely, right? If I'm dancing with a leader, like really pull in, who's really pulled in, right? And he leads me in a sugar push, on the away, I start to push out. Because as soon as I start to push out, if I soften, he'll pull harder. If I combat that, he'll pull harder. If in some moment of transition, if in a moment of transition I push out, so now flexing your bicep is hard to do, right? If I let you stay in here, flexing it's quite easy. Does that make sense? Go like this. Go like this. Flex your biceps. In. Pull in. Do it again. Pull in with the biceps. Go out like this. Now, if I said pull in with the biceps, that doesn't feel as strong. Because that's actually using your back, not your biceps more. Right? Do that again. This doesn't feel as strong in the arm as this. That feels very strong in the arm. So this, by the way, this isn't something I do with everybody because I don't need to do it with everybody. Right? But it's a nice compensation. It's a nice way of using the y-axis. Does that make sense? And outward tonal energy as a means of combating a negative force that's being acting upon me. Yeah? How we doing? Does that make sense? Cool. All right, do me a favor. Michelle, stay with me. And just pick a follow to rotate line of dance to the next leader. If you're girl, just one of you go. Line of dance. Line of dance is counterclockwise, sorry. This way. No, follows. Always follows. Great. So from here, same thing, so you can feel it with somebody else. Push away, ready, go. Push away. Boom. Now, do me a favor. Move your spine. Always check the spine. I got it. Put your feet in your hands and start to walk. Nice. Cool. Relax. Soften the knees and the elbows. This time center first. Go center. See how the spine feels. Not as stiff, or it's a little stiff, right? Try to put the feet in the hands. That feels like lots of work. Feel that? Yeah. Lots of negative tension in the body. Does that make sense? Cool. So now, one of the other things you can start to do is trade off being a ballet bar. So she's my ballet bar. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send myself away from the ballet bar and then move and put my feet and use the bar and push and pull myself to and from the bar. Now listen, with no intention of moving the bar. I have no intention of moving the bar. I'm moving me. Yes, I am creating the y-axis. Does that make sense? And I love that you just said creating the floor there, because I have two planes of contact like I have two floors. If I was doing push-ups, I have one plane of contact. If I'm Spider-Man on a wall, I have one plane of contact. We have two planes of contact. Does that make sense? And I want to use them the same. I use the point of connection like I use the floor, so that the journey from connection to my center is the same as the journey from connection to my center. Does that make sense? It's kind of a deep concept, but it should make you go like, oh my God, why have we not been doing that? Because from here to here, if it's the same as here to here, lots of information goes to my partner. All the information goes to my partner. Yeah? Leader or follow. This is not leader-centric. Yeah? Okay, so one of you be a ballet bar, and then the other person, push yourself away, pull yourself in, take some steps. How would I use the bar the way I'm using the floor? Can I, look, even here, look. I'm pushing myself away, bringing in, pushing away, bringing in. How am I using the floor, both floors, the same? Yeah? Try it. What's super interesting is if you close your eyes, if the person's doing it right, if you close your eyes, the person who's got their eye closed to the bar is probably feeling lots of what's going on. Feeling what weight they're going to, what leg they're going to and from, what their spine is doing. Does that make sense? You can start to feel what's going on. Great, so one more exercise before we do this. Check this out. Here's something else I want to do. One of you be a wall. So we're going to pick a wall. So Michelle's a wall. Here's what's going to happen. Right? I'm on roller skates, and my legs are taped together. So I'm on roller skates, and my legs are taped together. I'm a fool, right? So I drunkenly tied my shoes together, right? So if I wanted to move away from the wall, I could do this, because my legs are tied together on the roller skates, or I could push myself from the wall. Now what's super interesting is if I only push myself from the wall, from here, I would probably fall. Yes? What I would have to do is also engage into the floor. I would have to send myself from both planes, right, to start to move myself away from the wall. Yeah. So from the skates and from my arm, I would move myself from the wall. Now, if my feet weren't tied together, I could what's called, everybody say self-propel. I could self-propel from the floor with no usage of the wall. Watch again. I can self-propel from the floor with no usage of the wall. That's me using only one plane. So I want to make sure, that's why our feet are tied together, there's no self-propulsion. I want to make sure that I must use both planes to move me. Yeah? Now, is my agenda ever to move the wall? No. So I'm not trying to move the wall. I'm only pushing as much as what's necessary. Me, as much as it's necessary to move me. That's all. I'm not trying to move the wall. I'm just trying to move me. So can you do that? Try that. Somebody be a wall, and the other person walk off of it. Beautiful. And see, if the wall was on wheels, I'd move back with equal yet opposite force. Nice. Now push at the wall. That's bad, right? Don't use the wall at all. That's bad. They're both bad. If you don't use the wall at all, don't use it at all, just push yourself away. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know the rate at which you're moving. If you push at me, oh, that was good, but now push at me like you're trying to move me. Well, I don't know what you're doing. I just know that you're trying to do something to me.
Yeah,
right.
Bad.
Yeah. But if we use both planes to move, we get lots of information. Right. Did you switch back and forth? Feels good, right? Now, this is interesting. Check this out. If I do this, Michelle's the wall, and I'm going to push myself away. If I did not know that the wall was also on wheels, if I did not know that, right, but I just sent myself away, what would happen? She would move away with the exact same force, right? So she pushes, so she sends herself away using the wall. I would move away with what? Equal and opposite reaction. Does that make sense? What's that? Connection, right. So from here, that push away, by the way, who led that? Like, what's interesting is if you do this right, it feels seamless to both of us. Right. What's that? Yes. Right. So from here, the idea is I actually think that I expand this plane and push from the floor, and that's how I do something like a slingshot. Right? Now I expand the plane, because check it out. If all I did is expand the plane and she's on roller skates, what would happen? If I expanded the plane and she would come closer to me. You're on roller skates, so don't fall. Right. Right. She would come closer to me. Wouldn't she? Yes, yes, yes? So that's different. That's different. That's called the Y dance. You get this close, Y dance. All right, so from here, so I can move her towards me where I'm acting upon her, or I can act upon the Y axis and the X, right, to move. So this is moving me. This. So here's what I believe. The plane of propulsion redirects us. The plane of propulsion is always where I redirect. The plane of connection is where I monitor space, texture, and speed between the two of us. So the plane of connection monitors distance, does that make sense? Texture and shape, and legs and arms both monitor speed. Does that make sense? So because the plane of connection, the plane of propulsion is going to redirect us, not the arm. The foot is what moves us. At no point is the plane of connection the point that you feel that? Right? But the plane of connection is going to monitor space between the two of us. Yeah. So if I open this plane, so what I think about doing is I think about pulling myself and pushing myself from the X and Y axis past center. So I pull myself past center, I pull myself toward center, and I move myself away from center. I pull past center, I pull toward center, I move away from center. This center. So from here, I pull myself past center, toward center, and away from center. And that's how I lead a slingshot to a tuck. At no point do I pull her past me, pull her into me, send her away from me. That's different, isn't it? Right. I pull myself past center, I pull myself towards center, I send myself away from center. The shared center. Yeah. It's way different, yes? That's okay. That's all right. So from here, pulling myself past the center, pulling myself towards the center, and sending myself away never negatively affects you. I don't mess with your dance space. Does that make sense? I don't pull you past me, bring you to me, and send you away from me. That doesn't ever happen. Right. Right. So for me, it's always about pulling myself past our shared center, moving ourselves to and from the shared center. Does that make sense? Yes, yes, yes? Great. That was excellent. Right. It would require you to dance. Exactly. Cool. Now, so as we get into this a little bit more, so I have my center of gravity. She has her center of gravity. Yes? You all with me on that? By the way, center point of balance, the whole your center point of balance is your solar plexus or whatever. That's a made up dance term. Center point of balance doesn't exist in clinical science, so I don't use it. Right? Some people say it's up here is your center point of balance. It's just made up stuff. It's people filling in the blanks of science that they don't understand. So your center of gravity, just so you know, if you were standing perfectly still, which we know you can't do, if you were standing perfectly still, you were the perfect body weight for your skeletal structure, and you had no skeletal structure issues. So you have no skeletal structure issues, and you are the perfect weight for your skeleton, right? And you can actually freeze your postural sway. Your center of gravity will be 55% the length of your body from the ground up. Science tells us that. 55% the length of your body from the ground up. Now, you can't stand still. Probably lots of you aren't the perfect weight for your skeletal structure, and maybe some of you have spinal issues or hip issues or knee issues or anything else. All of those things affect your center of gravity. You with me on that? So we talk about center of gravity if it's at some sort of static state, but it's a dynamic state. It's always moving. So your center of gravity, I want you to think of like a bubble in a level. Right? So if I'm leveling a picture, there's liquid and there's a bubble. Right? I want you to think of the center of gravity as being a bubble on a level. You with me on that? Cool. So go like this. So underneath your belt line, right? Right, and below so somewhere in here, this is like the tube that has the liquid and the bubbles moving around. Does that make sense? So that's your center of gravity exists somewhere in there. Nod your heads if you get that. Cool, great. And so does hers. Right. Now we have center of gravity. Everybody say line of gravity. Stand on one foot. Stand on one foot. So you have a line of gravity. That's a line, imaginary line through space, like a dotted line. You can picture it through space, through your foot to the center of the earth. By the way, if I were to do this, my line of gravity now becomes my axis of rotation. You with me on that? Line of gravity. Here's something interesting. Do me a favor, put your weight on a foot. Great. So as you free up the other foot, weight will naturally shift to the heel of the standing leg, right? If your head breaks forward into the line of gravity, a new line of gravity is imagined in space. Your body already knows where it wants to go, doesn't it? Take the step. Oh, okay, great. That feels good. Your body recaptured its line of gravity. Did you feel that? Once your head weight breaks your line of gravity, a new line of gravity is imagined in space. So we have our center of gravity, we have our line of gravity. You with me on that? Center of gravity actually is kind of harder to manage. Line of gravity, we should be talking about more as dancers, right? So head weight breaks, so put your weight on the heel. Head weight breaks line of gravity. Can you feel that your body wants to take that step? You're like, come on, Robert, let me take the step. And by the way, you could probably target about how big that step's going to be. Just so you know, they have these like little things that they put in your feet, these little sensors at this institute that I'm working with. And when you do this on a computer screen, because they have, you're showing up on a computer screen is like looks like a cartoon, right? There's a green dot. There's a green dot. Imagine that before, and within a millimeter, you will strike your heel on that green dot when you take a step. And you cannot trick the machine. Because if you're like, oh, I'm going to step even further, it senses the pressure shift in the standing foot and moves the green dot, and you cannot trick it. Because once you know what's going, once it knows what's going on in this leg, it's set up for how big your body and your step is going to take. Science. Yes. Great. So now, but let's think about this for a second. Once we soften and we push away, boom, we now actually have a shared center of gravity. Where's this singular system? We're now one system. Where's our center of gravity? In between the two of us. Right, it's in here. It's going to be a little bit closer to me because of my body weight, even though I'm putting equal pressure to the hand. It's going to be a little bit closer to me. Does that make sense? So it's going to be about here. That's our shared center of gravity. What's the center of gravity of a hula hoop? What's the center of gravity of a hula hoop? The center. The center of gravity of an object does not have to exist physically on the object. Do you know that? Again, science, the center of gravity of an object does not have to exist on the object. Here's a little trick. Anybody here have kids or grandkids? Right? Take a cork, wine cork, put a toothpick in it, take two forks, equal weighted forks, stab them at a 45-degree angle to the top of the cork, and balance the tip. You can balance the tip of the toothpick on the edge of a glass. Looks like magic. Because the center of gravity of the cork now is in the middle of the glass. I do this for my kids all the time. Like I do center of gravity science experiments for my kids' science classes, right? It's pretty interesting. Yes? So, totally, absolutely. You can YouTube it. Right. It's a great bar trick, by the way. Can get you free drinks. I have a couple of bar tricks that get me free alcohol, right? So like, because I tell people that if they can explain it to me, then I'll buy them a drink. If they can't explain it, they have to buy me a drink. All right. Now, everybody do this. Just do this. Great. Now do me a favor. Put your hand like below your belly button, right? I want you to imagine that's a button, and I want you to poke that to make the arm lift. Come back. So poke that to make the arm lift. One more time. Now just lift the arm. That feels different. Right? Cool. So everybody say proximal, distal. Say it again. Proximal, distal. Right. So proximal and distal in science as it relates to a center line is that if we're here, I would say that Michelle's elbow is more distal to her center than her shoulder. But I would say her elbow is more proximal to her center than her wrist. Proximal, closer proximity to the center of an object. Distal, greater distance from the center of an object. Understood? Great. Y'all got that? So if I do this, this would be more distal movement. This would be proximal movement. Does that make sense? So I'm moving my arm from a closer proximity to my center. Nod your heads if you get that. Great. Put your foot forward. Bring it back. Put your foot forward. And you shake it all about. I just know you'll do it. All right, so from here, now imagine, same thing, poke to make that go out. Again, poke to make that go out. And poke to make, so that's going to be proximal movement. So if I'm dancing West Coast Swing and I do this, what was that? Distal. If I go proximal movement, same step, looks drastically different. Now, I do this. I am moving us proximally from what? The shared center. I'm not moving if I move me first, then hit the shared center, am I moving distal or proximal from the shared center? Distal. In the shared centered system, we want to move proximally from the shared center, not my own center. My own center is already turned on before I grab the hand. Does that make sense? Once I do that, I move proximally from the shared center. Does that make sense? So put that into play now. You're going to grab hands, you're going to soften, and you're going to move proximally from the shared center, both of you. Try that. Try it, try it, try it. Did we lose somebody? Oh, go over there with her. Yeah. It's different, isn't it? By the way, I'm guilty of teaching the other way. I promise you. I'm coming to you because I had a hypothesis that that something was wrong. I've analyzed hours upon hours upon hours. I am a geek. Any of the top pros that come stay with me, like Gary and Susan or Ben and Cameo or whatever, or Simeon and Maria from Russia, they come and stay with me. They're like, do you ever sleep? I was like, no. Like, they watch me on my iPad downloading YouTube videos and drawing vectors. Seriously. Pausing and going slow motion, going, something's wrong. Because there's a huge gap between the best people who do this dance and the masses who do this dance. And we're not teaching you right because you're struggling to do even the simplest of quality of movement things. Does that make sense? And it falls to us. Falls to us. So when I came up with the shared centered system about 1.5 years ago, right, I've just been doing tons of research, working with people like Eric Franklin, who's a movement specialist, Dr. Martha Stark, Dr. Minho Yi, who's a physicist, working with Dr. Larry Bunch, working with the International Association of Dance Medicine and Science, working with Dr. David Weiss, who's the head of osteopathic medicine at NYU, doing lots of research, lots of clinical study, lots of diagrams. You with me on this? And I was like, oh my God, we're doing this wrong. We've reversed engineered this wrong. We need to be active. And then starting to analyze Brandy. As Brandy and I started to dance with each other a lot, I was like, Brandy's doing something in the hand other girls don't do as effectively. And then I danced with Sarah, and I go, oh, well, Sarah does it too. And I danced with Tori. Oh my God, Tori does it too. Right? What is it that they're doing? They're actually active from the shared center to their body as opposed from their body to the center. You with me on this? Cool. All right, what's that? So try it one more time. Try it. And then I'll have you rotate. Move proximally from the shared center.
It almost forces you onto the white plane.
Yes. Right? Now do me a favor. Do me a favor. Move proximally from your own center to try to create. Move your own center to try to create it. That feels weird. Now, do me a favor. Rotate. Whoever was rotating, rotate again. So Michelle, come back in here. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, right. Exactly. Come all the way over here. Back where you were. Now, no, that's fine. You stay there. She's going to go there. Now, listen. Here's the deal. Right now, my methodology when it comes to teaching this is that you don't necessarily do this right away in beginning lessons. This can be a stepped process. So for those of you that are local teachers and trying to build this, and you're thinking in your head, how the hell Am I going to get beginners to do this? Don't worry about that yet. What you do is you give them drills without telling them application, right? So you just have to tell them it's going to better their quality of movement. So there's pedagogy, right? What's pedagogy? Anybody know? Right. What's the difference between pedagogy and andragogy? So pedagogy is teaching children. Pediatrics, right? Right. So andragogy is teaching adults. Everybody. Right. So everybody. Right. So pedagogy teaching kids. Now here's the deal. Pedagogy and andragogy are two different things, right, when it comes to methodology, right? So when you teach pedagogy, the children don't have to know the why. They just trust that it's like I don't explain to my 10-year-old why she needs to learn algebra. She just has to learn algebra. She has to learn. But as adults, because our hard drive is already so full, we have to be told how this improves our life for us to open up space to learn it. Does that make sense? So in andragogy, you must be telling them how much better this is going to make their life. If they believe this will improve their life, then they will open up the space to learn. Does that make sense? So and as teachers in here, understand andragogy and pedagogy, right? It's two different things. So now, having them do this and tell them this is just quality of movement exercises, have them doing this and this and this and this. It's quality of movement exercises. Have them doing the box step, knee, foot. It's all quality of movement exercises. Does that make sense? Don't worry and tell them, just like any other sport you've ever learned, this is like learning your scales. You don't say to somebody, well, I'm learning my scales, so how am I going to play Mozart? Your piano teacher will say, shut up and do the scales, right? Eventually you'll get to how that all works, right? Then when you get to this, from here, you cannot talk about this yet. You can talk about connection. If you even wanted to say, for now, keep this a little static for now, that's okay. You can start to do that. Just like the targeted cueing, you can do that at the beginning stages. And then what you do is you slowly, through the drills, their body will start to seek those feelings. Does that make sense? And then at higher levels, you can start to implement more of the knowledge of what they're doing. You with me on that? Cool. But you're here at an intensive, so I'm giving you all the information. But for those of you who are local teachers, you pepper this in slowly. Give them drills, and then pepper this information in slowly. Because it's too much to give like a weekly beginning class. Does that make sense? They will never come back. And your job as local teachers is retention. Your first job as local teachers is retention. Does that make sense? Cool. All right, great. So now that we've done all this, right, from here, I want to do a couple of other things. So we're going to stand in third foot position like this. So this is the standard position most people teach. Some people teach first, some people teach whatever. But let's just say it's generally around here, okay? I get there's lots of variations of it. That's fine, right? So we're here. Because there's many ways to do the same thing correctly. So if you teach in first position, that's fine. If you teach slightly stepped off, that's fine. All of them can be good and all of them can be bad, right? So from here. Now, if I'm going to lead Michelle forward, would you say she has a passing foot or a passing leg? Take a step forward on one. Just one. Did she pass a leg? No. So if I'm going to step forward on one, do I have a passing leg? Yes. Okay, great. Now, first of all, the whole the lady should be half a beat behind the man. No, a beat's a beat. We're dancing to the same song. You should be right with me. Yeah. the whole, if you could just be a half a beat behind me, or if we could be on the same song, that would be great. So, so the idea here, right, is that we want to strike at the same time. Because a beat's a beat. Do you understand this? Strike is non-negotiable. Leg action is negotiable. Weight transfer timing is negotiable. But a beat is a beat. Does that make sense? So if I'm walking, I am going to strike on the beat. This is on beat. This is on beat. The only difference is leg action and weight transfer. This has completed leg action with very little weight transfer. This has not much leg action and lots of weight transfer. Does that make sense? Strike is strike. So if we have to strike at the same time, and I have a passing leg and she doesn't, what might I have to do? Go faster. Because we're probably going to move at the same time. And I got to strike at the same time. Well, that sucks. Because I'm going to go faster. And if I go faster, what's going to happen? That's going to translate to her, isn't it? Hello? Right. But so if I make sure, It's not that I need her to be a half a beat behind me. It's that I'm clearing a foot a half a beat ahead of her. That's the illusion. Right, because I'm clearing the foot. So as we put our weight there and we take 5 and 6, 5 and 6. Now we have the same step, don't we? Now, take a step. We have the same step. You with me on that? So I don't know if you guys know who Simeon and Maria are. Do you guys know Simeon and Maria? The Russian couple. They're amazing, right? Simeon, when I taught him this 3 years ago, he said, "This is a game changer." I said, "You're right, Arnold." So, because, and you know what he said? Because I called him Arnold. He goes, "He's Austrian, I'm Russian." I was like, whatever. So like from here. So as we put our weight here and we go 5 and 6, 5, and what I'd like is on 6 for us both to send ourselves away from the shared center and for leaders to clear their foot and then not move. That's what I want to do. Watch from here. So if you don't know how to lead and you're like follow right now, stand in between other couples and I'll rotate a lot. So we're going to go 5 and 6. 5 and on 6, I want to do that exercise. What we did there. You with me? I want that to happen on 6 from the hand and the foot. So as we go 5 and 6, and I want the leaders to clear their foot. And then you should be able to stop. Michelle does not feel like I am pulling her forward. We are super connected, but she does not feel like I'm pulling her forward because I will never pull her forward. I will push us. I will push us. I will never pull her. Yeah. Cool. So let's try it. Here we go. Put your weight on your left. Follows on the right. Follows on the left. Leaders on the left, follows on the right. Take the 5 and 6, right? On 6, on the s of 6, we start to push from the shared center, just like the exercise. As we finish 6, leaders should have cleared their foot, and you should be able to hold that position. Ready? Go. 5 and push 6, clear the foot. From there, so that foot should be cleared, leaders. From there, you should be able to push to move both of you. Push. Nice. Do you feel that? What'd you say? Way less arm, way less shoulder. Exactly. What's interesting is you activated the arm. You activated the arm in 6. So you were using your arm. You cleared the foot. Everything was turned on from the center, and you were able to push. Yeah. Really connected, less weight. Like it has less negative weight, right? But there's definite connection. Do it again. There's a great, Stu's like this. How long have you been teaching dance, Stu? Right, exactly. No, it's game changer, right?
What's actually really amazing me is the things that were, like before I got out of American Rhythm,
Right.
some of these things were very, very similar.
Of course.
And then they went in this really violent direction with black that's away from it.
Right.
So this is really interesting.
No, do you know who Steve Vasco is? Right. So Steve's a friend of mine. So Steve and I we just spent a few hours together last week, and we go way back. We were in the movie Dance With Me together and Salsa Dancers, all this stuff. So, and we were talking about connection, whatever, and he's like, God, American Rhythm, they've lost this. And he was moving me. I was like, like connection is connection when people really understand how this works. And he said, you know why, Robert? It's because people are taught wrong, and then we figure it out. I go, yes, oh my God. Like, I'm doing this right now. And we had this whole dialogue about the shared center. And he's like, oh, can I use that? I was like, yeah, I mean, for the record, I have trademarked shared centered system. That is my thing. But other people can teach it too and say it. Just say you learned it from me. Right. So Steve's like, shared center, I'm going to do it. All right, so here we go. So again, from here, watch. We're going to take 5 and 6. 5 and 6, push yourself away from the shared center, clear the foot, and then push. Push. Yeah? Follows, rotate. Right. Cool. My weight's on my left. Your weight's on her right. So remember, by the way, check in here. Push yourselves away from the shared center. Feel that? Great. So you feel what that feels like, pushing away from the shared center. Once we understand, listen to me, proximal movement from the shared center, couples dancing becomes magic. I do about 30 different styles of couples dancing. It's like 34, 35, something like that. And I hold world or national titles in 11. And I'm a member of 8 different Hall of Fames. right, for dance. Why do I brag about all that? Because, first of all, I'm not hyper gifted when it comes to dance. I wasn't a natural dancer. I was pretty good. I was kind of natural, but I'm not Benji. I'm not Kyle, right, who have like this tremendous God-given natural ability to move. Does that make sense? I had to work at it. And then I started to realize that there's really only two sets of sciences. There's single axis and double axis dancing. That's it. Do we have a single axis or do we have double axis? And if we have double axis, we have a shared center, right? If we have single axis, we have a shared center. And there's just sets of physics that go around all of those dances. So just so you all know, a single axis dance would be closed position in any of the standard or smooth. This is single axis. I can't move my hips without it moving. I can't move my axis without it moving hers. Does that make sense? Cool. That's a single axis dance. The second that doesn't happen, it's double axis. Because even if we're chest to chest, like I did earlier, I can lead her. She can rotate on her own axis separate from my axis. Does that make sense? All forms of couples dancing fall into those two categories, single axis or double axis. Both of them have shared centered movement. Yeah? Great. So from here, we want to always reset moving proximally from the shared center as opposed to distally. Feel what that feels like. Make sure that you have your own spine. Check into all that. Right? Now my weight's on my left, her weight's on her right. My weight's on my left, follows on the right. We're going to take the 5 and 6. We're going to do that shared centered push on 6. Ready, go. 5 and shared center push on 6. Clear the foot. You should be able to hold that. And then when you're ready, push. Push. Yeah. How we doing? Feels good, right? So now let's go ahead and kind of like round this off a little bit. So as I'm on my left and she's on her right, and I go 5 and send away, clear the foot, push. Try to make it a little bit more seamless. Does that make sense? Let's try it. Put your weight on your left, follows on the right. Ready, and 5, send away, and push. Nice. Now do me a favor. Listen to me. Leaders, watch. As I go 5 and 6, and I clear this foot, and I push, I should be able to stop. Here's what I would like to have happen. We're here, and we're going to go 5 and push away on 6, clear, push, and we should both be able to stop. That's called zero capture. Everybody say that. Say it again. That means I do not need another step to catch my balance. What I just saw a lot of you do is you did everything perfect. You did all this, you did this, but then as you went to move, your center went and this happened. And then you had to take another step. That would be called a +1 capture. That means I had to take another step to capture my balance.
So that's just really when you're overshooting your balance.
So we have zero capture plus, in biomechanics, they talk about zero capture, and in sports, zero capture, +1, +2, +3. So if I do this, that's a zero capture. If I do this, that's +1. Does that make sense? No human needs more than +3 to stop themselves. Usain Bolt at full sprint can stop himself in 3 steps, if needed. Does that make sense? He chooses not to, because it's more efficient not to, but he could. You with me on this? Tons of research on this. So now you can go +3 to +4, +5 if somebody's acting upon you. Does that make sense? Because exactly. Because their velocity, all that stuff is added to you, right? So West Coast swing should be zero capture, 3 and is +1, 3 and, because I couldn't capture my weight on 3. 4 is zero capture, 4, 5 and 6, +1, zero capture. So I should be able to capture my own balance. Does that make sense? I must take an extra step. Capture my own balance. I must take an extra step, capture my own balance, which goes right into partial full delay, by the way, for those of you who understand partial full delay. Does that make sense? It's because I haven't completely put my weight over this foot, so I need an extra step to capture my balance. So that I can have +1 for 2 reasons. 1, I don't put all my weight on it, so I need a +1. Or 2, I send my weight past it, so I need a +1. Does that make sense? Like true body flight is always +1, isn't it? Right? If I'm doing smooth and I have body flight, I must always have to take another step. That's why you don't hear me say body flight in West Coast swing, because we don't have body flight in West Coast swing. Not the way they talk about it in smooth, right? So body flight must require you to take another step, right? So if I have body flight, I must take that other step. Does that make sense? As I move from one foot to the other and I don't need to take another step, that's not body flight. People say that in West Coast Swing, that's because they don't know, right? So it's true. There's definitions. There's books and definitions of all this stuff. Right, exactly. No, your view. All right. So from here, what we're going to do, we're going to go 5 and send away 6. Go to here, take the 1, and you should be able to save your own balance. It should be 0 capture. Yeah, let's try it. My weight's on my left, her weight's on her right. Excuse me. Ready, go. 5 and 6. 1. Should be 0 capture. Now, check this out. Relax. If you went 5 and 6, see how she started to fall forward? Because I was falling back. So I fell back. I contracted into an isometric contraction in my legs to try to catch 0, but it pulled her off. If I'm really truly doing 0 capture, as we go 5 and 6 and I clear and do 0, she doesn't feel like she's we haven't broke connection. If she breaks connection, there's a chance, she breaks connection, that I fell because it pulled her off of her leg. You with me on that? Right. As opposed to my head being back behind before it gets to here. Exactly. Let's try it. Same thing. 5 and 6 to 1. 1 stops at 0 capture. Should be no break in connection. Ready? Go. 5 and 6. Clear the foot. Step 1. 0 capture. Nice. Cool. Does that make sense? Rotate, 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 rotate. Now, by the way, cool. So there's 3 parts to every step. Let me see if I can. I don't have a whiteboard. I should have asked for a whiteboard. There's 3 parts to every step. All right, so can you all gather around? I'll put this on the camera in a second, but so I want you to see this. Where is? Yeah, hold on. I'll just do a stop it. All right. So look, there's 3 parts to every step, right? So I'm gonna make a line, right? So there's from here. Should be a straight line, sorry. So we'll say 1, 2, 3, right? So this is 1. This is the striking leg, right? Then we go over that leg, and then we go to the next. Now, there'd be another leg already out there. Does that make sense? Cool. So we're talking about just 1 leg. So this is the swinging, striking leg. Now, from here to here, right? So the velocity that happens from here to here determines what goes on there and the length of the step where the next capture point is. Understand? Great. So as you all stand there for a second, and I'll do this on the video. He's going to freak out that I'm on video. But the idea is that that foot going out, that's 1. When I'm over it, that's 2. As I'm past it, that's 3, because there's the leg behind me and the new space is there. Yes, yes, yes? Does that make sense? You have to, exactly, then you have to do that. The problem with lots of us, I will fix this on the video, I promise. The problem with lots of us, right, as we walk, is we go here. We strike there. We strike at 2. So when if I go 5 and 6, if I go here, I'm striking at 2, aren't I? If you strike at 2, if 1 is eliminated, if you strike at 2, there is 0 control of that. Does that make sense? And there's the problem. Yeah. So we want to make sure. Now, by the way, is this person walking forward or backward? Either. Because these 3 parts, this would be 1. This would be 2. This would be 3 as the new 1 occurs. You with me on that? Cool. So we have to make sure, which means that in order to get to 0 capture, I have to make sure that the strike to the going to vertical is controlled. You with me on that? So that then I can determine what's happening here. If this doesn't exist, this isn't controlled. Yeah? How are we doing? Out of control would be if I land here and I've tipped. Now I'm just catching myself. Does that make sense? So I'm falling. I'll try to establish some sort of, controlled fall, which isn't what we should be doing in couples dancing. Yeah? Did this kind of make sense? Great. By the way, this is super important let's clear now that you guys have that. Because, Courtney, can I borrow you for a second? We're going to do a little trick. No. I just don't want to hurt you. All right. So, if I was going to take Courtney off of her feet, so what's going to happen? Look at me. I'm going to sweep you and put you up. Does that make sense? Great. So I take her off of her feet, I sweep her, and I put her up. Where did I put her? Zero capture. Right? There was zero capture. You know why? When I swept and I said, I let her legs get out in front of her to place to 1 of the step so that she could control to 2. So she got to be at zero capture. You with me on that? So as I take her off, if I keep the upper body with her, she's probably going to, right? Both of us are going to fall.
I only needed 3 steps.
Right, exactly. That's awesome. Well, here we go. This is going to be 6 steps. Ready? No, I'm kidding. Right. But if I understand as I send her that I have to still allow her, now she has to do her part too. She has to know to get the legs there. Does that make sense? So there's 2 things. First of all, I use space. I always lift with space, right? So I don't lift with contraction. So this is different, by the way. So I don't contract in, take her off, and do that. That's contraction, right? I actually create lots of space. So as this sweeps up, she's right on that foot. Lots of space. Does that make sense? But I as a leader, have to also be aware of where her capture point is. I have to not only understand what my arms are doing on the steering wheel, but whether the back wheel is going to hit the curb. Does that make sense? Because I'm attached to something that I'm trying to manipulate into a position of control. So I'm trying to take her to a place of control. So I have to also understand where she's going to go. And she has to do her responsibility too. She has to know she must get a strike out there so that 1 to 2 gets to also be under her control. So then it becomes zero capture. How we doing? Kind of, sort of, maybe? This is deep stuff, right? It's awesome. Great. Let's all do the trick. No, I'm kidding. All right, so go back. Yeah, go back with your partner. Go back with your partner. So watch Michelle and I. So we're relaxed. We're going to push. We're going to push away. Boom. X and Y axis using both. Remember, I know I've already said it, I'm just going to say it again. Where's my shared center of gravity? Where's the center of gravity? Here. Here's the center of gravity, right? A shared system has a shared center of gravity, just like the hula hoop, it's in the middle. So what I want to do is send myself away from the shared center as opposed to sending my center away and grabbing the shared center. Does that make sense? I empower from the shared center. I don't negatively act upon it. Yeah? Let's try it. Push away. Push away. Feel your spine. Feel your spine. Nice, nice, nice. Cool. Come back. Fall away. Feel your spine. Doesn't feel the same. So crazy, isn't it? Like the difference in those, right? So put your weight on your left, her on her right. Take the 5 and 6. 5 and 6. 6 is pushing from the shared center away. Clear the foot. Step on 1 and should be zero capture. Easy peasy. That's right. Okay, now check this out. In every system, when it comes to like bipedal movement, like what we do, there is power and there's control. Say power, control. Say it again. Right. So my right foot, if it's pushing, is what? Power. My left foot, as it strikes and it's resisting and monitoring from 1 to 2, is what? Control. That first leg in the 1. Can somebody shut that off? Must be somebody's in here. All right, great. So as that leg strikes out, that's the control leg. Because remember I said from 1 to 2, that's the control factor that sets what happens from 2 to 3. Yes? Great. So I want to make sure power and control. So I have power and control within my own system. One leg is power, one leg is control. I've been saying for years, one leg determines direction, the other leg determines rate. So this leg tells me I'm going this way. This leg tells me how fast I'm going to get there. Does that make sense? Power, control. Power, control. We used to say that we have a sending and receiving leg. You'll hear that a lot too, sending and receiving. The only problem with receiving is that it implies that the receiving leg is just receiving information. But the receiving leg actually should be active in its information, right? Another way to think of it is as I take this step and this strikes, both legs are actually pushing up. One's pushing for direction, one's pushing for rate, right? So just take a side step. Push and push. Great. Push and push. Great. So power and control, 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 power and control. Okay, so now, within our system, when I say our system, the shared centered system, there is power and control. And the power and control lies within us. Like, as I walk 1, 2, I will be power. Michelle will be control. So as we go 5 and 6, 5 and 6, I'm going to be power. As she steps, I need her being control. So she's control, she's control. If she walks backwards, go ahead. I'm control. Keep going. I'm control. Does that make sense? Nope. I mean control and resistance to maintain connection. Right? So, watch. Do I have 2? Yeah, I'll do this one. So, come here. Great. So just put your hands down. Great. Cool. So I'm going to put this at the top of your hamstrings, just at the bottom of your butt. Okay. Cool. I'm going to wrap this. Nope. From here, hold this. Great. Not so tight. Come in. Slide, slide, slide. Forward, forward, forward. There we go. And let's go slide out just a little bit. There we go. Great. Cool. So we're just going to maintain this. Does that make sense? Cool. So as we start to walk, awesome. So now as I walk backward, let's maintain this. So it's your job to maintain the tension. Just walk though. Walk as comfortably as you can while maintaining. Great. So every step you're taking forward has resistance to maintain this. Does that make sense? So I'm power and you're control, right? So as we take that step, I'm power, you're control. Feel it? Great. Now if you were to walk backwards, go ahead. It's my job to maintain this. Go ahead, walk, 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 walk. Walk, walk. Just walk. Don't stop. Go. Run. There. Awesome. I'm not going to let you hit anything, I promise. Okay. Right? So you're power, I'm control. Now I'm power, you're control. Nice. Oh right. By the way, for years we talk about bands, and we put bands, lots of times we put bands here on people. The problem is that they can then just move their hips separate from using their legs, right? If we put it at the insertion point of the hamstring to the glute, right from here, as you just walk in place, she has to push from the floor up through. Does that make sense? So it's best to do it at the top of the hamstring. Kind of, sort of. So now, right, so now we get to maintain this. You with me on that? So now, if I walk backward and you just take a walk forward just like at a fast pace, we break this. Oh, yeah. Right, so we can't both be power. So walk backwards. I don't catch up to you. Does that make sense? Cool. So as we're doing this from here, as I walk backwards, we are trying to maintain that. Nice. Excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent. You with me on that? Cool. So now, as we're here, right, like this, and we'll put your weight here, take your 5 and 6. As we go 5 and 6, and I clear this foot to take a step, as you walk forward, maintain the connection in this band. Your control, your control, your control, your control. Exactly. And now we maintain connection. Does that make sense? Great. Let's all try it. Sure. Where to get a band? No, I'm kidding.
No, do that again.
Uh-huh.
Because what I really want to ask about is, am I hanging on too tight right here?
No.
With this thing on?
Nope. Feel fine.
Okay, thank you.
Somebody told you you grip too hard? Well, they're wimps. All right, so let's try it. Anytime guys go to me, she's so heavy, she's giving me her weight. I'm like, do a push-up. Like, weight is good. All right. So try it. So this time, let's take 5 and 6. Watch with Michelle and I. This time we're going to take 5 and 6. I'm here like this, and we're going to go 5 and 6. Clear. Remember on 6. 6 is where I send myself away from the shared center. 6, clear the foot, right? Walk 1, 2, 0 capture, 0 capture. We should still have connection because she's been control and I've been power. Yes? Let's try it. My weight's on my left, her weight's on her right. Ready, go. 5 and 6 and 1 and 2. How we doing? Follows, lots of you are coming off power. Coming off control. So the first time I learned this, I didn't know it was the person who taught me a version of this, his name was Wayne Bott. And so we were at Annie Hirsch's house on a Monday night after the US Open. And we were Wayne and I would get into these geeky, dance conversations. And he said, Robert, man, on your 4, you want to take your 4 as a brace step. Right. So he would go 1, 2, and his 4 would be a forward, he would brace the step. That way he could control the weight as it moved away. So he was control. The follow moving away is what? Power. And he was control. And that was mind-blowing for me. He goes, don't be power on 4, be control. Well, he didn't say power and control. He said, don't push into the lady on 4, brace step on 4. That's the way he said it to me. So he would go 1, 2, and he would send, and then he would brace that step. He wouldn't on 4 push into the follow on 4. The redirection happened on 3 and then the stability happened on 4 from his brace step. And that was the first time I ever processed that. Right, and then I took a lesson from a woman named Tony Redpath. Do you guys, anybody know who Tony Redpath is? She's a very famous ballroom coach, right? And she has something she calls stop go. Gary and Susan teach it too, right? Stop go is that somebody's always go and somebody's always stop. So walk backwards. So Michelle's go and I'm stop. Stop just always loses. So if I walk backwards, I'm go and Michelle's stop. She's trying to stop, she just can't. Does that make sense? Hello? So the only thing I don't like about stop go is that follows get a little tense in trying to actually stop. So the word power and control, you're controlling the speed of the movement, still implies that you're moving. Yeah? All right, so as we go, 5 and 6, and we take this, Michelle's 1, 2 are kind of brace steps, aren't they? She's control, control. I have the pushing step, she has the resisted step. Yeah? Let's try it. Yeah, heel or ball. Heel or toe, exactly, it's fine. Here we go. Ready, go. 5 and 6 and 1, 2. How we doing? Close? Yes? Rotate, 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 rotate. Cool. Did you have a question? Go ahead. Right, right. Okay, so now let's talk about something else real fast, right? So muscles have 3 types of contractions. Muscles have 3 types of contractions. They have concentric, eccentric, and isometric. Concentric, eccentric, isometric. Say it. Great. So concentric, some easy ways to think about concentric. A concentric muscular contraction is me choosing to move weight. I'm choosing to move weight in whatever direction I want it to go in spite of momentum or gravity. You with me on that? So concentric, I'm choosing to move this bag in spite of gravity. Does that make sense? So I'm moving it in the direction I want it to move in spite of gravity or momentum. Gravity or momentum, sorry, I'm taking it where I want it to go. Nod your heads if you get that. If I am resisting where momentum or gravity wants it to go, that's called eccentric. That's an eccentric stroke. So concentric, right, and eccentric. If at any point in time I freeze, that's isometric, like from the word isolate. Does that make sense? So frozen's isometric, right? The other thing, the way it happens in a muscle is muscles in concentric shorten, in eccentric they lengthen. So eccentric's a lengthening of the muscle, concentric is a shortening of the muscle. Yes? The easiest way to kind of think of how this works, put your arm out straight like this. Great, just that arm. So if I move you forward, walk forward. That's fine, don't fight me, and then walk backwards. Great, does that make sense? Great. So this is called myosin. Oh, excuse me, this is called actin. This is muscle fibers. This is called actin. And then there's these little hairs off of them called myosin, right? So myosin are these, they look like feathers coming off of the actin, right? Muscles do this. They don't curve, like we think that they don't curve, very linear, right? They slide, right? So from here we have actin and we have myosin. With myosin, they have what's called pivoting heads, myosin pivoting heads. And what they do is they do this. And this is a full contraction. So this is a full contraction. This, that's concentric. This is a full eccentric contraction. So that's this, right? Is this. Does that make sense? Hello, hello? Great, all makes sense, right? If at any point in time I freeze, what's that? Isometric. Now just so you know, this is bad. Why is this bad in dancing? Nowhere on the other side to go. Why would this be bad? Nowhere on the other side to go. Does that make sense? So we want to live somewhere between here and here, so that there's always room on the other side to make adjustments. Yeah? Cool. So the eccentric, thank you so much. The eccentric stroke is another way, I call it resisted release. Grab your hand, like this. Slowly pull the arm out, but resist the pull. Resist it, but let it go. That's eccentric, right? Go to the front of the hand. Push it in, but resist it. The arm that's being pushed, it's also what? Eccentric. Does that make sense? So pull the arm out, resist it, eccentric. Push in, resist it, eccentric. Does that make sense? How are we doing? Great. So what I want to think about doing, right? So by the way, when I push in, that's eccentric of what muscle group? Tricep. Pull out, that's eccentric of what? Bicep. Does that make sense? Cool, kind of, sort of. So lots of times what happens is, and we are built on what's called an antagonistic system. So the antagonistic system is like, remember we talked about the cross, the sling? I brought Stu out here and I talked about the muscular usage, right? So we walk in what's called cross opposition, right? We don't walk same side, we walk opposing. We have head weight, hip weight counter. Our muscles work in this. We are in a constant countered situation. That's how we stay bipedal as we walk. You with me on this? So we're an antagonistic system, which also means that if the bicep's going concentric, what's the tricep doing? Eccentric, and vice versa. Does that make sense? Well, that can also happen from top to bottom. So what I don't do, I should say, is I don't do concentric actions of my bicep during moments of redirection. I do not do concentric actions of the bicep during moments of redirection. I do concentric actions of the quadriceps and the hamstrings. My legs are concentric, right? But then what happens, I'm concentric in my legs to then immediately become eccentric in my arms. So in a sugar push, as we go into this from here, my leg is going to push. So my leg's going to push me. So that's a concentric contraction. Does that make sense? But as she comes into me, it's an eccentric collection. Does that make sense? Right, that's resisted release. What most leaders do is they go concentric in the bicep, and then the follows do the same thing, right? So I'm concentric in the legs, eccentric in the arms. That's my antagonistic system, right? And by the way, same thing here. As I collect in here, my feet, as she push on me, my feet are the thing that's pushing. From the floor, I'm redirecting her. Does that make sense? As she moves away, go ahead and move away, I'm eccentrically easing her away. Cool? No. Right, so from here. I have heard people say that. People say that. It's called a sugar push. So what should you be doing? Pushing her. Well, you are pushing her, but I'd rather push her from the floor, not from your arms. We're pushing the system, but from the floor. Does that make sense? Cool. I don't like to say push her or pull her. I push or pull the system. Does that make sense? We are an all-wheel drive car. What does all-wheel drive mean? Power to all four wheels. Does that make sense? I don't have front-wheel drive car where I'm pulling or pushing the back wheels that are just freewheeling. Does that make sense? Cool. So from here, I want to eccentrically move and eccentric. Can you see it? Right? I don't concentrically move and I don't concentrically move. My arms. Yeah? Let's try a sugar push. Here we go. Ready? And 5 and 6 and a 1. Sugar push. 2, 3 and 4. 5. Do it again and a 1. 2. Clear the foot. 3 and 4. Clear the foot. Leaders, move. 2, 3 and 4. Do it again. 5. Clear the foot. And 1, 2, 3 and 4. And stop right there. Okay. Follows rotate. Follows rotate. So what? Why do we teach 4? Tell me why 4. Somebody raise their hand and tell me why 4 of an underarm turn or a side pass is so important. Somebody tell me why 4. Everybody talks about 4. 4 sets the anchor. 4 posts. 4's, they have all these different things. Why? Why 4? Redirect. All right, so check it out. Here's a rule of West Coast swing. We redirect through stretch or compression, right? We redirect through stretch or compression through a 2-beat system. Our stretch and or our compression happens in our basic through a 2-beat system. We stretch on 5 and 6, 2 beats. We compress on 3 and 4, 2 beats. We stretch in a whip on 3 and 4, 2 beats. We stretch away on a whip in 7 and 8, 2 beats, right? We are asking the follow to apply weight, to stretch, applying weight to the system, or to compress, applying weight to the system through 2 beats. Yes? Do you all get that? If you do not get that, raise your hand. I'll say it again. I'll say it differently. Okay. What's that? Okay. So we stretch through 2 beats. 5 and 6, we are stretching through 2 beats. Yep. So from here, as I hit 4, 4, on 5 and 6, I am stretching through 2 beats to then redirect. As I do a sugar push, 1, 2, I'm compressing through 2 beats to redirect. So we use 2-beat increments to redirect. Our anchor is 2 beats, our stretch is 2 beats, our compression and sugar push is 2 beats. In a whip, right? 1, 2, right here, she stretches through 2 beats to redirect. Does that make sense? You all with me on that? Now, in order to have the stretch or compression be committed to the shared center, the follow needs to be able to apply weight to the shared center. The follow needs to be able to apply weight to the shared center. Yes? I cannot tell her how much weight she can apply in the moment she needs to apply it. So I can't set the anchor on 5. She needs to already be using it on 5. Does that make sense? Weight already needs to be applied. You with me on that? It's a little like if Michelle was a pole, I would feel the pole before I applied weight to it. If I had never in my life grabbed this pole, right? And I don't know how it's attached. I can't see how it's attached, right? I'm not going to walk up and go, wee, and throw my weight on it. I'm going to kind of feel the pole and then go. The parameters of her space and her ability to connect need to be set prior to her needing to use it. Does that all make sense? Right. We all do it so much on 4, but listen, in a sugar push, then where should it be? 2. All of you, most of you, are going 1, 2, and you're not getting to her until 3. So there's nothing for her to push on. 3 is when she should start to push. So I go get her so that she knows she can push at 2. At 2, I have set the parameters of the wall she's going to push on. Same thing in a whip. I go get her on 2 so that on 3 and 4, she knows how much stretch, what her parameters are. Brandy says all the time, follow's responsibility is to fill space with time and movement. Right? Leader's responsibility to set the parameters of that space. I should set it before she needs to use it. You with me on that? So go get them. Go get the follows on 2. You with me on that? Try it again. We all strive for 4, but nobody talks about 2. 2 feels, left out of the situation. Here we go. Put your weight on your left, followers on the right. We're going to take 5 and 6 and go into a sugar push. Ready, go. 5 and 6 and 1, 2, 3 and 4. Please clear the foot. Go get her. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5. Do it again, and 1, 2, 3. Now don't get her till 3. 5 and 6. Don't get her till 3, 2, 3, and 4. You'll never go back to chickens, right? Like as soon as you do that, you're like, ah. Right. It's so funny. Leaders say to me, follows don't ever give me that level of compression, though. They don't ever give that level of compression. And I tell follows, I need you to give me, when they're like, well, leaders don't ever give me. And then I follow these leaders, and I go, oh, right. You're not connecting to me till 3. I'm not going to give you connection. It's too late. Leaders are like, follows don't let me feel them on the sugar push. Right. Because you don't let them know you're there. Right. That I'm there to collect that weight. The first time PJ Turner ever came and worked with me in New York, where I was yelling at him about a sugar push, and I picked up a rubber yoga ball, small one, and I threw it at him. And he caught it. Ping! And I said, throw it back at me. And he threw it back at me, and I caught it, and it didn't make a sound. Know why? Because I'm a ninja. No. So no. I went and got the ball, and over time collected the energy. Does that make sense? PJ just caught it. And he was like, oh. So then me and PJ and Tashina took a 12-pound yoga ball, and we stood in a circle, and we threw it. And everybody had to catch it and keep it moving without a sound and throw it to the next person. And we had to do whatever shapes we could do to move it, right? Catch, collect, and never have it stop. And that was the very first lesson they ever took from me, right? Understanding how to send and collect weight efficiently and effectively. Yeah? Cool, try it again. By the way, leaders, some of you are forgetting to clear. You have left your foot before you clear the other. I don't ever leave I push, post, clear. Remember? You push, post, clear. Let's try it. Here we go. Same thing. Weight on the left, follows on the right. 5 and 6. Ready, go. 5 and 6 and a 1, 2, 3, send away. 5 and 6 and a 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5 and one more time. 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5 and stop. Cool. Rotate. High fives and rotate. Nice job. How's it feeling? Should feel pretty good. Yeah? Weird. Different, right? Okay, that's good. I'll take that. I'll take weird and different. By the way, a couple of other things. Listen, so now here's an opinion. Remember I told you I'll give you science, I'll give you opinion? Now here's an opinion. The way I dance my sugar push is I use the y-axis more effectively. But if I do my job right in the shared centered system, I create a system that she gets to use. So I want her empowering herself more. What's the difference between being drug on an inner tube? You ever been on an inner tube with a boat and you're being dragged around the water? Super fun, right? So what's the difference between being on an inner tube and being a water skier? What can the water skier do that the inner tube can't do? Control, right? The water skier gets to choose when it goes back and forth across the wake. The water skier can actually increase or decrease speed relative to a certain amount based on how fast the boat's going, right? They can lengthen their arms, shorten their arms, and if the boat driver is doing their job right, they're keeping a very consistent system that the skier gets to use. You with me on that? We teach this dance as if you're on inner tubes, ladies. You're just being pulled around. I need you being water skiers. I need you being more active to your side of the handle. Does that make sense? But leaders, that means I have to stop trying to pull them everywhere. I'm trying to create a system and put in requests that then they use themselves. You with me on that? So here's a very easy way to put that into application. If I do a sugar push and I open the arms just a little bit from here, if all I do is bring the arms back in towards, if I think about collecting this way, then going back this way, if all I do is bring the hands in, as I bring them in, she will push herself. She will push herself away from the y-axis. So if I do this, if I close in, she will push herself. And then I just follow through with her. So I let her push herself away. I don't ever feel like I'm pushing her. Does that make sense? And if I can let her push herself away, she has lots of options on her side. Yes? Right? Okay, hold on a second. Let me stop you. So watch. Wait. Watch. What was different? Yeah, I collected in here, letting my biceps and my triceps understand the weight it was collecting so that I could then monitor how wide I should went. You went out immediately, which goes right to the back of the deltoid. So now you're right into the back of the deltoid immediately. Your deltoid and your rhomboid are immediately engaged, right, and that's going to hurt you. Does that make sense? So it had to do, like immediately your trajectory was, hey, shoulders. I'm like, let my arms manage what's going on. Let my arms that really manage this, know what's going on, and then I can make choices from there relative to the weight acting upon me. That's the difference. Cool? Yes. So one-handed from here, it can lower. I can lower it, and then I just raise it up, and she pushes. Does that make sense? See how it's lowering? One of my favorite things to do is to seek length in other directions. Seek length in other directions. Say that. Say it again. So if I'm Kyle Red, Kyle does this underarm turn. Then he moves in closer to the follow, and then backs away as he does his thing. Right? Does that make sense? So when you watch Kyle do that underarm turn, he seeks length down, because now we can still have connection. Does that make sense? He seeks connect. He uses the y-axis to its entirety. Just like I get to use all of the x-axis, Kyle uses all of the y-axis. You with me on this? Cool. So that you'll see, I just recently analyzed Maria of Semina Maria dancing with Ben Morris at TAP. And I was saying, and I analyze Kyle a lot, right? But I was saying, if you watch Ben with Maria do things like this, where he then comes across here, right? He keeps connection in this arm by sinking length down and out. So he seeks, now he can sacrifice his own side, but he keeps her connected. So there's lots of times you'll see Kyle turn a lady into a 1-foot turn, and as she's coming off this turn, he drops it down so that she has something to pull against to save her balance. He seeks length in other directions. Because if I'm here like this, stay where you are. If I step close, we have slack. Does that make sense? But if I want to get closer to her, I can seek length in other, just stay there. I could seek length in other directions to still maintain connection. You with me on that? Cool. So one-handed, it just drops down a little bit. And then I start to lift up, and she can push herself away. Feel that? Change everything. And what I'm trying to do is give her a system she gets to push herself so I don't have to push her. Yeah? Now, that's my opinion. It's just my opinion. I just told you what it's based on. Does that make sense? But it is an opinion. People can disagree, and there are other ways to do sugar pushes that are very effective. Right? This is just my preference for the sugar push. So from here, I collect, I let open, I bring back, she gets to push herself away. Just try it. So collect, swing it out, and then push back. Put your weight on your left, leaders, followers on your right. You're going to take the 5 and 6. Ready, go. 5 and 6, and a 1, 2, out, 3 and in, 5 and again, 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5 and again, 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5 and one more time, 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. Cool. High fives and rotate. Nice job. That was great. No. So check this out. Watch. From here. As I collect on 2, 1, and I collect 2, am I still, as she's pushing on me, go ahead and push. As she's pushing, am I still eccentric? Am I? Yes. The fact that this goes wide on that eccentric doesn't negate it. Does that make sense? As we send back. Right. When? No, Nope. Because as this happens here, right, I'm not going to go to full. I have arm left. Is go ahead, take your anchor to eccentrically let you do that. Does that make sense? So I'm still doing that. Cool, thanks. By the way, like, first time I ever learned this, I learned from a gentleman named Dick Hensley. How many of you ever saw the movie Dirty Dancing? Anybody? Great. So there's that moment where he goes, this is my dance space. This is your dance space. So Dick Hensley was the associate choreographer of the movie, right? And he was the ballroom specialist because Kenny Ortega, who choreographed it, was a jazz and ballet dancer. So Dick Hensley was teaching them couples dancing and teaching them frame while there were script writers writing the script. Now, he didn't say, this is your dance, this is my dance space. He said, what he said is, we're holding a piece of glass, We're both holding a piece of glass. And I should be able to move on my side, and you should be able to move on your side. And although we should feel each other, we shouldn't negatively affect it. And the writers turned it into, this is your dance space, this is my dance space. But anyways, the gentleman who taught them that is the gentleman who first taught me about frame. He moved from North Carolina to California, and he worked at California Dance Center, and he ran the teacher's training program there for years. So it was the first time I ever started to understand what it meant to have this shared system between the two of us, where we can do things that don't negatively affect the other person's side. Yeah? Try the sugar push again. Did you ever meet Dick at California Dance Center? Yeah, super great guy. Here we go. Ready? Take the 5 and 6. Clear the foot. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Go. 5 and 6. And 1, 2, 3, and 4. 5 and 6. And 1, 2, 3, and 4. 5 and stop. Cool. I'm going to give you 2 more shared center system things. Check this out. And my underarm turn. So my 2 favorite leaders to follow, I get to follow a lot. So John Lindo and Kyle Redd are 2 of my favorite leaders to follow socially, right? So and I'm going to tell you why. So I'm like, their lead is super clear. I know exactly what they're doing. So I had them lead me. I've been teaching something for a while now, and I had them lead me. And I go, oh my God, you guys do the same thing. And I told them what it was, and they were like, yes, of course. That's in an underarm turn. In an underarm turn, I don't lead linearly and then take the shape, because there's going to be what's called a catch-up moment. What I call the catch-up moment is the moment that the water skier catches up to the boat, and there's slack in the line. So to prevent that catch-up moment, my hand goes up. So it goes up. I seek length in other directions to get her. Now, if I just lift the arm up, she starts to walk forward immediately, gets rid of all pull and all bicep. So as I'm pushing this and moving, this just goes up. So does that make sense? So I'm pushing, this goes up, that brings her towards me, right? Instead of what happens most of the time is we go 1, we step the 2, now we have slack. You with me on this? By the way, that's the reason, that slack is the reason why this started to happen. The 1 and the 2, where instead of back cross, it was always taught back cross. I still teach back cross. Benji teaches back cross. Kyle teaches back cross. Jordan teaches back cross. So instead of the back together. The back together was somebody, I won't say who, although I know who, but somebody came up with the hypothesis that the back and together would keep us connected longer in the 1-2, and there would be no catch-up moment. Does that make sense? Right, to keep connection. So it's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea. The problem is you're just prolonging the slack. The slack's still going to happen, right? And follows have to really catch up to that moment as they pass. You with me on that? So I'm not a fan of it, but I understand what their thought process was, right? So as I lift up, that's the same thing. So what I said to Kyle goes, yeah, I teach people that they paint the rings of Saturn. That's his analogy. So they do the rings of Saturn. John Lindo said, I tell them to draw like a teardrop. They draw like a teardrop. I said, I just tell them to lift their hand. So but the imagery works, right? Yeah, right. So Kyle says, I tell them to draw the rings of Saturn. Does that make sense? John Lindo says, I tell them to draw a teardrop. Does that make sense? When I first started teaching this, I used to say it's like you're going up an on-ramp of a freeway and coming down an off-ramp. That's what I used to teach, right? So that the hand lifts right away as it goes. Can you try that? And it's a gradual lift over time. Put your weight on your left, followers on the right. Always take the anchor so that we can practice the shared centered system onto 6 and the clearing of the foot to 1. Ready, go. 5 and 6 and a 1. Lift 2, 3 and 4. 5 and again. 1, 2, 3 and 4. You got to lift the arm. 1, 2. Good. 3 and 4. Do it again. 5. Lift the arm. 1, 2, 3 and 4. One more time. Here we go. 1, 2, 3 and 4. Stop, clap, and rotate. Stop, clap, and rotate. Nice job. How'd that feel? Good? Yeah. Yeah, 3 and. She goes 0 capture, 0 capture, plus 1 is always 3 and. 4 is 0 capture. Right, exactly. Cool. All right, so now, as we go into that, those type of things, now let's talk about a sugar tuck. 1, 2 with a tuck, turn, and out she goes. So I'm going to give you an opinion. Okay? My opinion is that based on the y-axis that I can use in its entirety, and understanding that arcs are super important, right? I can seek length in other directions to keep connection. So my sugar tuck goes out so that we have connection the whole time. So that there's connection here the whole time. Does that make sense? So that there's no moment of slack, then hit, then move. Does that make sense? So using the y-axis between the two of us, the shared center, right? I create an arc to the point of tuck and then redirect. So that arcs. Also, by the way, at no point is the hand drawing to me to send her away. I call that lock and load. Right? So from here, what happens is we both tuck off the shared center. We both tuck off the shared center. Yeah? Right. Try it. You know what? I'll give you 5, 6, 7, 8 and just walk right into a sugar tuck, and leaders kind of start to extend that arm out to the side. So you're making an arc to the point that you'll tuck. 5, 6, 7, go. 1, 2, tuck, turn, do it, stop right there. Fix the hand, do it again. So we're not going to take the 5 and 6, you're just going to walk right into your 1, right? So leaders, your weight's on your right, followers, your weight's on your left. 6, 7, go. Out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Do you feel that? Yes or no? Now don't do the outside arc. Leader sugar tuck without the outside arc. 6, 7, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Do you feel the difference? Hello? Yeah. Right. Filling space makes all the difference. Try it again. Ready, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Yeah. Now, by the way, make sure you don't trick anybody. So I don't go here. Now, in this moment, you actually, whether you know it or not, your body has imagined this Y plane. As we go into it, I can't take it away from you. Do you see that? I don't take the Y plane away. So once I've established it, because you're meeting it at it, right? So we have to make sure that this doesn't happen. The reason for this pull in is to soften the landing that occurred when there's lack of connection. The reason why historically this happens is to soften the landing because there was a lack of connection on the in stroke. If there's no lack of connection on the in stroke, I don't have to soften the landing because she knows where she is the whole time. So from here, there's no need to do that little soften moment because she has me the whole time. If we go from empty, I have to soften the landing. Right, exactly. Does that make sense? Cool, try it again. Ready, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Nice. Yeah. How's it feel? Cool. So can I borrow you two? Can you come do this? So watch. So I want you to watch them do exactly what you just did, right? And what I want you to really pay attention to is Courtney. There she goes. Boom. Right. So switch the hand and do it again. Right. Again. With the arc out. Boom. Did you also see that what it does? Do you see it prepares her body to rotate into tuck? So the arc has two things. One, right? The arc maintains connection through because we're seeking length in other directions. So there's no slack that's occurring. But it also, due to that rotation, prepares her body to then come into the tuck. So it prepares for rotation while monitoring connection, and also a partner can always catch up to an arc. Arcs are super important. I can always catch up to an arc, and arcs are the strongest shape that there is to build upon, right? So we can put more weight and more energy into an arced system. My partner can always catch up to an arc. When I say catch up to an arc, do I lose you all? Do you know what that means? Here's the rule. The rule is, I have glasses on, and I can see targets, and Courtney doesn't see the targets. You with me on this? So I have like infrared glasses or something, right? I can see things that I have to go around. Now my goal is to get her and I through this maze, but she sees nothing, right? So I'm not trying to trick her. She has to stay with me. You with me on that? So we're going to walk, and I want her to stay with me. She can always catch up to any arc that I take. If I corner, she can't keep up. It's why fighter planes go, whew, right? Jumbo jets have to take a long turn, and they become easy targets because you can always catch up to an arc. Does that make sense? So if I did this in here, if I did something like this, and I really arced this system, at any point in this arc, Courtney can put in a request to the arc because she can catch up to the arc. She can put more pressure. She can say, and I can go, great, and I can catch up to it. So if I go into here, and as she pushes, now I'm like, okay, what does she want to do? Where does she want to go? And we keep with the arc. Nice. Does that make sense? The same kind of thing. If I do this, how many of you see the crossover anchor? How many see it? It's very popular right now. I love it, right? So it's just a push triple. They do that from here. Sean gets to catch up to it because I arc. Because I arc in the hand and the body, he can catch up to make decisions, right? If I corner it, he doesn't get to. So if I corner it, he can't respond to that. If I arc it, he gets to make other choices. Does that make sense? He could, even here, as I cross over, he could increase this arc and choose to take it somewhere else. Does that make sense? And it never feels interruptive to me because all we're doing is we're taking this arc and going, ooh, let's take it that way and then down this way and then over this way. Because you can always, so I can apply more pressure to an arc. My partner can always catch up to an arc, and it feeds the shared centered system so that there's no slack. You all with me on that? What'd you just say? Right. Right. So this is arced, right? Even this is an arc. Does that make sense? This arcs. All those things arcs. Yeah? Cool. Try the sugar tuck one more time. Five, six, seven, go. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. How'd it feel? Close? Try it without the arc. Without the arc. 5, 6, 7 without the arc. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Feels so different, doesn't it? It's so bad. Right? All right, listen. Okay, so by the way, and then I'll move on. Sorry. All right, so hold on, I'll show you something. Look right here. Can you guys all see that? I'll go slow so you can all see that. You all see that? It's a pretty shape, isn't it? Right, the pretty shape? That is a sugar tuck. That is what a sugar tuck looks like when you track it with VR and paint and space. Right. Somebody said it should be my logo. But so that is a sugar tuck with a VR camera. I know, with a VR camera. Right. So here. So what we did is we took a VR camera, right, leading somebody, and it had this thing on the wrist. So in the VR camera, it's all black, and I'm painting a blue line. I can see the blue line, but I can't see my partner. And that's me leading a sugar tuck, and then that's what happens. Now I let an outside turn, a whip. We did a whole system where they videoed me leading my girlfriend Mia through a whole bunch of patterns, and then what the shapes look like. And outside turns, whips, tucks, everything, always system of arcs, no corners. The hand, the trajectory of my hand. Exactly. What's that? Dance is art. Exactly. Cool. All right, we have to be done. You guys are awesome. Everything I did is on video. We don't do a video recap of this one because everything's on video. This just scratches the surface of the shared centered system. Just scratches the surface. Yes. So please look for more information about it because you're not going to get it all in 3 hours. But if we can start to rethink about where energy comes from, does that make sense? And about how we move our body efficiently for our own spine, it'll start to help, right? Injury prevention, it'll start to get you to do more of the stylistic stuff you see people doing. So look for more shared centered stuff. Thank you all so much.